PACIFIC414 Pop Talk proudly presents Pro Wrestling, Past, Present, Future. Featuring the following panelists: Stone Loki, Brandon the Anime Guy, Quidman Jenkins, Orman Tagge, Master Paul, the Padawannabe, King Pheenix, and Resolute Germ, with your host, PACIFIC414. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's on to the show.
Mike, you're muted.
Thank you, Paul.
Kind of ironic, isn't it? The mic is muted.
Hey, at least I created a laugh. There we go. Anyways, welcome one and all to PACIFIC414 Pop Talk. I'm your host, Mike. Tonight we are talking pro wrestling, past, present, and future. Joining me this evening is a great group of panelists. Some I am meeting for the very first time, some I have known for a while. But first, leading off, we have Brandon, the Anime Guy.
Woohoo, that's right. And if you don't like it, you can suck it! Whoa! Why, hello there, everybody. How are you doing? Am I alone? Am I the only one here? Am I talking to myself?
I'm still here.
Well, it is great to be here today. I love wrestling. It's, there's just something about the whole, the glitz, the glamour, the whole stage presentation, everything about it. It's basically a male soap opera. What more can I say? And it's a soap opera that I used to love quite a bit.
Yes. And next up, we have Resolute Germ.
Hi, everybody. Wrestling always been a part of my life. My family watched it when I was just a little baby, all the way through to today. It's just always been there for me. Great, especially if you're a little shy kid, you can see how over the top, and it just helps you express yourself.
That it does. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, he's coming to us from Orman Tagge Manor, from the offices, that is. We have Baron von Raschke. He's also from the Primetime Kings. You can catch him with 24/7 Fusion Media. Visual Andy Williamson and Pat Steven Seagal.
I'll tell you this right now. All you have now is flash, explosions, noises. You don't have the real stuff out there. You aren't manly enough. You don't have the claw like the Baron had. I tell you, you got to man up and be out there where was this manly sweat amount out there and not the noises. That's what wrestling's about. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me on the show. I guess they put me in the old category, as you can kind of tell. And as much as I'm not up on the modern day or even the future of wrestling, in Minnesota, we had such a huge impact because you had Vern Gagne, his son Greg Gagne, Nord the Barbarian, Baron von Raschke, all these people that were hometown boys here in Minnesota that went big time. And needless to say, we are wrestling territory.
Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have King Pheenix.
What's up, y'all? How's everybody doing? Yeah, I just brought a little backup just in case I needed it. Like I'm down here in Austin, Texas, home of the son of a plumber, baby. But let's keep it real. Like when it comes to wrestling, ever since I was just a little toddler doing superfly splashes onto my dad while he was trying to take naps, wrestling has been part of my life. I am a super was it easy to get along with person when it comes to the wrestling I dig. So you're going to hear a lot of old and new from me today. But other than that, if we were getting ready to go, I'd watch your neck because sometimes you have to go to sleep.
Next up, you can catch him every weekday morning or his morning show, Loki's Mornings of Mischief. You can also catch him every Friday evening with Mexican Iron Man. Please welcome Stone Cold Loki.
What? Thank you so much, brother, for having me on. I had a totally different experience growing up with wrestling than most of you. I was not allowed to watch wrestling. It was like a big no-no. If I wanted to watch wrestling, I had to rent VHS tapes. I had to pay for the VHS tapes out of my own money. And even then it was like, what are you doing, boy, spending your money on that trash? Nothing but fake. And I'm going, wrestling's not fake. But loved wrestling, loved watching WWF back in the day, loved watching WCW when the Outsiders crashed into WCW and said, we're taking over. Back then, the only thing that was keeping WWE alive was Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, and The Rock. 84 weeks, WCW dominated the ratings for 84 weeks. They were killing the WWF, and I am absolutely positively thankful that you invited me for this. Thank you, brother. And we're going to have a good time tonight.
Yes, we are. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, don't tell him Legos are only blocks. Don't call him a blockhead. Please welcome the Padawannabe.
Hello, everybody. Again, everybody's going to say it, and I'm going to say it also. Thank you for having me. And I'll be doing YouTube and Twitch eventually. Same name, Padawannabe. And yeah, I have long history with wrestling. I'm really looking forward to this talk. This is going to be really fun. I was into it from a little kid, and probably watching it since WrestleMania, since before WrestleMania 1. And then I got into it probably late 90s all over again with my brother. And, you know, he was kind of the age that I was. So I've been, you know, been hooked into it for, if I'm this old now, 40 years now, been watching probably. So this is going to be fun.
Indeed it is. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch my next guest on the Star Wars Guy's YouTube channel and also his other YouTube channel, Master Paul's Game Room. Please welcome Mr. Money in the Bank, Master Paul.
Hey guys. So out of all of us here, I have probably been a wrestling fan for the least amount of time. I didn't start getting into wrestling until 2017. And of all things to get me into it, it was just this random compilation video that I saw scroll across my timeline on Facebook of funny off-the-air moments from like Raw and SmackDown in the mid-2000s in the Attitude Era. And I thought that stuff was hilarious. And I thought one of the most hilarious guys of those compilations was Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I started looking more into him, and that got me into wrestling in general. Now, admittedly, I have kind of fallen off the wayside from wrestling, mostly due to not having any interest in watching it when they went to no fans in the audience when COVID hit. But I'm starting to get back into it more and more. And actually, Pacific, I do need to step out for a little bit, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'll be back.
All right, brother. Okay, so our next panelist, you can catch podcasts with him and myself every Saturday afternoon or evening once real life settles down. but we have done several episodes of the Over Barricade podcast together where we discuss AEW. Please welcome Quidman Jenkins. Wait, whoa, hold on. Before you show yourself and talk to the audience, well, what the heck is going on here? I mean, come on, man.
Which talking about?
Yeah, I'll show you what I'm talking about here, sucker. There can only be one
Hey.
undisputed champion here.
Listen. First, you came from a shakaroni. Now you're coming from a title. We're going to have a problem. But see, I'm not worried because you're not smart enough to know what to do. See, once I start talking, if you've got half a brain that I have, you put your shades on just like me. Because as soon as I start going, the future of this stream is so bright, you got to wear your shades. All right. Now, everybody else is thanking you for being a part of this, but I'm not going to do that. I'd love to, but I'm not going to. Because at the end of the day, I realize you couldn't do this show without me. Because when I start talking, everybody understands.
What?
I said everybody understands that when it comes to pro wrestling takes, I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man, and I'm saying, woo, right here, I'm the man.
That's what it
Right
is.
here. Yeah, right here, pal. Come on. Right
Bring
here. You and me. Go. Let's go. Let's go right now.
Just bring it, my man. Hey, Phoenix, can I borrow that? I need it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I don't think Phoenix is gonna be so willy-nilly to give you that Kindle stick.
He just did. He already did. It's it's literally over here. I've got it. It's behind here.
Hey, I'm taking hits from this thing, and I've given hits from this thing. So I'll tell you right now, it's like, hey, I don't expect it'll be an equalizer, but you both can take it. It'll just be fun to watch you both go at it with each other on.
Yeah, well, there's two other panelists that are going to be going at it, and I have some video footage right here.
I can't wait to body slam that pencil neck geek, Brandon the anime guy, going on out there constantly talking about that Japanese art form all the time, dissing our stuff, dissing the stuff that we have here. That's the last thing. This is USA territory. Enough of that Japanese stuff. Brandon, you and me and that channel, we're going to do it mano a mano. We're going to sit back and see if that sun really rises or not.
Damn.
Fighting words.
Yes, fighting words. So here's what I propose. Baron and Pacific versus the anime guy and Quidman.
You know, I'm not just gonna take that line down. You know us people here, us fans of the anime that comes from the East. We do not take things lying down. We are the best for a reason, because we do not compromise. We do not slack. We do not hold back. We do everything into perfection. And with that, you will bow to the rising sun. Ooh, yeah.
And just remember, if I can maneuver around a convention all day in a cosplay, just think of how easily I can kick your ass in my street clothes.
Oh, I can sit back and say the best thing you can do. You're going to be kamikazing into the mat. That's the best thing that you can do.
It sounds like playtime.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
All right, so let's go ahead and get on to the questions. And just to let you guys know I should have said this backstage, but usually on Pod Talk, I like to keep it loose. So if it gets silly, it gets silly.
Damn right.
Yep. I can live with that.
Wrestling. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so
it is wrestling after all. And what is wrestling other than male drama theater?
Very true. And let me look at the first comment.
Hello,
Dave D
Dave.
Sound, how you doing, brother? Oh yes,
Piper and Andre the Giant.
I have a
two
rock.
Of my favorites. May they rest in peace.
Yeah.
Especially Andre. He the condition that he had and the body that he had to work with was so strong for so long, but as it is with any giant, the body gives out.
There was a documentary that was on A&E several years ago, and it's actually available here on YouTube that you can watch. And they talk about Andre's early life and his struggles as he dealt with his condition.
Yeah, it's a
What
tough
was he?
thing.
And what was he passed like a week after his father passed away? He went over to France and after his, attend his father's wedding, and he passed away.
Yeah,
like almost immediate.
Yeah, and he had just come home from playing cards with some buddies, and he passed away during the night.
Can you imagine playing cards with Andre?
I was just gonna say, what would it be like to play cards with Andre the Giant, the eighth wonder of the world?
Everything I've heard about Andre,
drinking game, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say everything I've heard about Andre, it'd be nothing but beer and gigantic farts.
Yep.
Well, hell, just recreate that WrestleMania 1 match. You got Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, you got Hogan, you got Mr. T, you got Andre, and you're sitting there playing cards with the four of them. That's a card game.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it would have been.
You scare as hell to win too, because at that point you're beating everybody. You're like, oh shit, let me get my money and leave.
No, you wouldn't be getting away. No, Piper would be the first one out of his chair, starting shit, and it would just go from there. Everybody beat the hell out of everybody after that.
I'm like, where the hell is my golden car right now?
Oh gosh, 10 years ago, it's actually 10 years tomorrow. Pheenix and his cousin and I went to WWE SmackDown, and Piper was there, and it was so great to see him.
Wow!
Oh hell yeah!
Last time I saw Piper was at the Astrodome for Monday Night Nitro, and that was absolutely one hell of a night. It was absolutely nuts. He fought Ric Flair that night, so I got to see a Piper Flair match, and I was like third row back, so I had really, really good seats, third row back, ringside.
Very nice.
So good.
I mean, that's what Quidman and Pheenix and I did back in 2014. We went to a SmackDown taping, and we got ringside seats.
Oh,
Best seats I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Best seats. I was right there on the entrance ramp. Like it's.
I'll still say, house show in Ocean City, Maryland, is still one of the I was literally right next to Batista and them, but I still remember MVP looking out, going, "I hate this fucking town. The whole place smells like fish." It was one of my favorite moments in wrestling.
Yep. And that's the thing. Wrestling creates so many different memories for us, but they all start at one particular time and end at one particular time. So my first question to all of you is, how did you become a fan of pro wrestling?
Oh man, that is a good question. And if it's all right, since I'm right next to you and in the line, I'll go ahead and go first. I remember watching it on television in the late 80s at my paternal grandparents' place. My brothers and I, my middle brother and I, when we would go over there, we would go down into their basement, and they had an old consoleized television. And the time that we were typically there is when wrestling was on, and it was a lot of fun to watch. To see Hogan, or to see Sergeant Slaughter, or the Bushwhackers. Who else from the time? Legion of Doom. To see all of those guys in their prime go out and do the wrestling, and then to come back and have let's see, who was it at the time? Bobby the Brain Heenan, and I think Mean Gene Okerlund, or was it Gorilla Monsoon? No, it was Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan in a studio yakking it up, and of course, Bobby the Brain being Bobby the Brain. And it was just a lot of fun, and from that's where we got the love of it. But it was the Attitude Era in the 90s, and the WCW NWO wars, and then the crossover wars between them and the WWF at the time, that's when it really did get solidified, and that was the most fun. At that time, WCW had a myriad of wrestlers, from the small guys to the big guys, and the small guys, a lot of the luchador type fighters, they were incredible. They were always fun to watch. And it was nice to have a decent competition. So if one channel was sucking it up, we'd switch to the other, and we were in hog heaven for 2 to 3 hours.
Yep. I mean, you look at the era of WCW when they had their cruiserweights and the luchadors, like you were mentioning, Brandon, and you have guys like Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero. I mean, Eddie. That's all I have to say. Is may he rest in peace, but man, could he entertain.
Yeah, they were extremely entertaining. They always put on a great show. Both at that time, WCW especially, they were hitting on all cylinders. The lighter guys, the heavier guys, dealing with the NWO, just all the back and forth between that. It really truly was the golden era of modern professional wrestling, and nothing since then has even come close. Once the Attitude Era ended and they decided to go back to trying to maintain a TV PG rating, that's when I said, nah, it's not for me anymore.
All right, Resolute Germ.
I can't say when I started because it goes back as far as I could remember. Some of my earliest memories was being at my uncle's house. He had ordered WrestleMania 5. I used to go over. He's the only one in the family with cable at the time, so all growing up, even before I was in school, we'd go over to his apartment and watch Monday Night Wrestling before it was even called Raw. My brother and I would go over there, watch the WWF show. It's always been there for me.
Very nice.
So, and personally, I was never a big fan of the Attitude Era. It got popular, but especially if you go look back at it now, WCW cruiserweights were great. But if you go to the top of the card in WCW, the ring work was garbage, especially Goldberg and Hogan.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
You had maybe 4 or 5 guys in WWF who are really carrying the thing.
Yeah, I mean, the cruiserweights was what was selling WCW at the time. I mean, Billy Kidman, he was one of the great cruiserweights that comes to mind right now. And, just all those guys stepping into that ring week in and week out, even on WCW's last show, and trying to give it their all. Because nobody knew what the future of WCW was at the time. And unfortunately, we didn't get a WCW pay-per-view like ROH got their pay-per-view this past Saturday with Tony Khan of AEW buying Reign of Honor. So that's one thing that I really think WWE has always dropped the ball on, is using cruiserweights.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
All right, Baron.
Well, like I said earlier, Minnesota being quite a wrestling town with the AWA being out of here. Of course, names like Vern Gagne, his son Greg Gagne, Baron Von Raschke, Nord the Barbarian, even Jesse the Body Ventura and the like. So it permeated. These people were doing local ads. So no matter where it seemed like you're going, there was always something wrestling, even if it wasn't in the ring. So, growing up, being an impressionable youth in the 70s, you just were kind of surrounded by all that, and just the fact that the antics. I mean, these people were going out there, and deep down, you couldn't do this stuff. You'd kill yourself by doing it, but it was still fun to watch on that. And then, as time kind of went along in there, of course, Jesse Ventura started bringing out more of the flair, and you started getting more of the wild outfits. So it kind of was interesting to seeing, just going from people in the rest, just in the, the shorts and all that, to actually going out and having the Hulk Hogan's, the Leonard Venturas and the like, that you had on that. It interesting dichotomy, especially when you got to WrestleMania, the first one. I think, like last week was the anniversary for the first one, if I remember
Yep,
right.
the 38th WrestleMania was last week.
Holy cow.
So it's hard to believe. I mean, it's been that long when you had that. And just to show you how much it permeated in Twin Cities, a guy I went to school with, his father was a meter man. And he would go around and, with the meters and all that. And a lot of the people on his route were wrestlers. He actually had to turn the gas off on Jesse the Body Ventura because Jesse the Body Ventura didn't keep up on his gas bill. But, it was like, can you imagine this shorter guy and Jesse the Body over him? It's like, nope, sorry, got to pull it. And it's like, you'd think that'd be the most scary moment in life. But it's like,
yeah,
these people are, human. There is that stage persona and then there's the real life persona. And so, I mean, as it goes, I dropped out of wrestling or the interest of wrestling. That's why it's the older stuff. And then when, we talk about the attitude stuff coming in, of course, the wild stuff we have today, kind of got familiar a little bit, especially with China. When China came in there and when she left wrestling and she did her spread for a certain magazine. And the funniest thing about it is we had a place called Schindler's. You're a newsstand. And they plastered all the windows with the cover of China's issue. And this was my first real true encounter with a Karen. Some helicopter Karen was just going bonkers because her kids went in to get cards for, sports cards or whatever. She saw that. It's like, oh, do you have that up there? It's horrible to see. Oh, my God, you're corrupting the youth. Oh, my God. What is it? You think this is right that they have this stuff up there and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know. I'm a guy. I don't like it.
All right, Quidman.
So for me, I'm going to be honest with you guys. A lot of y'all are a little bit older than me. I was born in 92, so I missed out on a lot of the, the older golden age stuff. And honestly, even when the Attitude Era was in its quote unquote peak, I still really wasn't able to understand it and really get into it. But my dad was a big fan of WCW. And he is from an era where he wasn't necessarily appreciating wrestling so much for the ring work or the art of it as much as he was really just kind of suspending his disbelief and pretending it was real. Like he knew it wasn't real, but he was pretending it was real just to enjoy the fantasy of the stories and everything. So I got into it because I remembered him watching WCW, and yes, he did cheer for Goldberg. But again, because he wasn't really into it for the ring work, he was more into it just for his own thing. So, so I really am a little bit biased towards that, to me, magical era between the Attitude Era and the PG era, known as the Ruthless Aggression era. As you guys mentioned, there were a lot of people in WCW who could really hold that ring work up. However, and I've said it so many times on the Over the Barricade podcast, WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it, has stayed alive because of their production value capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can present a show. Nobody can. It's like this, right? It's Christmas morning, okay? And you're opening up a present. At the end of the day, the present, what's inside the present is what matters. But before you get that present, if it's wrapped up real nice with the wrapping paper shiny and it's got a bow tied on it and it's color coordinated and everything looks just good, that you're probably going to have an even fonder memory of the present just because it looked better. You might choose that present over another one just because at the site it looked better. WWE has been able to do that. So I think once you got those WCW guys in WWE with that production value, you look at a guy like Chris Jericho and what he was able to do with his career. I think it made a difference. So to me, the Ruthless Aggression era is what really solidified my lifetime status as a wrestling fan.
All right, Padawannabe.
Sorry to get to my unmute button there. So how did I become one? Well, I didn't have anybody that watched WWF. The men at my time when I was young looked at it like, oh, that fake ass wrestling shit. You know, I mean, and they were, you know, my mother was 20 years older than I am. So they were around 20 to 25 when I was in my, you know, 0 to 5. And then they're a little bit older. So they're still kind of college age, not completely mature, and would have been wrestling fans in a different era, more than likely. And so I guess it was more, I found it on TV. We all, if anybody of us over around 40 or close to know, there was very limited things on in the morning as a child and late night as a child. We saw a lot of televangelists in the morning and a late night wrestling at night, you know? So I guess that would be probably how I found it, was on late nights first, because I would be the only one awake on those nights. And if I'm thinking then, this has to be before school. So I'm under 5 years old. And to date it more precisely, it would be like I rarely got to see Junkyard Dog. And I'm trying to, I saw Iron Sheik a lot, Vladimir Volkov, you know, Hillbilly Jim, those guys. So that era right there, of course, Hulk Hogan and, you know, these other guys, all the big ones, of course, at the time, Andre the Giant. But I'm trying to remember the other ones, because like Junkyard Dog really wasn't a predominant wrestler when I was watching. I would occasionally see him come in and a few other wrestlers like that. I didn't know of Hacksaw Jim Duggan until he kind of came back. I knew of him, and I knew a lot of the wrestlers and announcers knew of him, but I had no idea who the guy was till he made his bigger comeback a little later, probably, or in the mid 80s. I'm probably guessing right around there. But yes, definitely from those nights. And I did not have cable, you know, and then eventually I think that might have been when wrestling might have gotten one of its first prime time shows. Because I want to say I was watching a couple shows a week, a late night one, and then one that was kind of on late evening. And God, I can't even, I know it wasn't SmackDown. I know it wasn't any of those things. And it wasn't called the WWE or WWF wrestling show. I just can't remember what it was called way back then. But just, you know, watching that and not having cable. So I didn't get to see any of the pay-per-view events. Plus, I'm under 10 years old. There's no way your parents are going to let you see that. And not many people had cable. Cable was fairly expensive back in the day, you know.
Yeah, it
and
was.
so it was still a pretty new thing. So I would have to wait until the next maybe Wednesday, Thursday, or the next weekend to actually get the update, you know, and they would show you highlights from the fight before, you know, and I'm a little kid and I remember those, you know, you get so emotional, those long fights, you really take those, you know, heel and babyface fights for real. It's like, God, the good guys never win. The bad guys are always cheating and always doing such rotten things to these guys, you know, so you get emotionally invested when you're at those younger ages, as we would with any cartoon or any movie series we loved, you know. You just, and WWE back then was a series, you know. I mean, I remember the cartoons, and if you had action figures, which I did, and I loved action figures, they had the first, you know, WWF wrestling action figures, and they had the little bendy guys, and they had the ring you could buy and all that stuff. So I remember having that stuff, and it just is making me more of a fan, you know, before the age of 10 years old, you know. And, you know, and this was when Hulk Hogan didn't have the bandana, you know. I mean, all my Hulkamaniacs and the 24-inch pythons, brother. I mean, you know, it was just, I remember he always made it such a big deal that he had the biggest arms in the world. He held the world record, you know, and these things that some of the wrestlers leaned on back then, Jake the Snake and all these, you know, not so far back. I didn't really know Ric Flair, and you know, those first wrestlers, I was really not about. I was kind of the next ones. Like I said, the Junkyard Dog, Ric Flair, I didn't know as much of, but I was definitely in those early years. I remember early WrestleMania and Iron Sheik versus Hulk Hogan, and and the Battle of the Nations kind of thing, with Volkov and that kind of stuff. So all those kind of things back then, and because it was still, we were coming out of the Cold Era war stuff still, as far as all the adults were concerned. But yeah, ever since then, and then when I turned, well, in 1990, my brother was born. So around 2008 to 2015, we got super invested in it again. But being a fan in the 90s, I was only out of it a couple years. And then I kind of came back into it right there and that was when WCW and what you guys were mentioning before, the cross-pollination, and that's when that was the heyday of wrestling, as we all know. I mean, super popular. They were pulling numbers like nobody else. Arenas all over the country, more and more shows, and just all that. So just I became a fan through the fame. Kind of as it got more popular, I was becoming a more and more of a fan, and I still to this day, I don't watch it as much, but I do keep up and I enjoy it. And, I'm sure if I had another little fella in my life that liked that, I'd be like, okay, you got to come over. We're getting pay-per-view. We're doing this thing, so, but yeah, I'd say that's how I became a fan, growing up with it and doing all that, and even watching as much as I could. If anybody, I've talked to Pac about this before, and there was nothing else but WWF on there, but there was this weird late night Vegas based show called Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. One of the most horrible things you could probably see on network television, but I watched it anyway, and they had all the gimmicks and all the stories just like other wrestling, and I think that's how I really discovered it's like, oh, they have the big girl, the Rashiki character, and the, the big John Studd character, and the super athletic one, and all these things. So
the hillbilly twins with the brown bags over their heads.
But see, y'all remember that, and I remember watching that thinking, wow, they're just in like a little tiny room. Like there's like 40 fans in there just yelling at these two women. It was a dressing up of mud wrestling for the time, basically, I mean, they were still women were still being used for their bodies and their looks and things like that, and it was clearly for the ratings, but it was wrestling, and I recognized it as that. I was not old enough to understand what was happening. I watched it strictly for wrestling purposes. I was doing research. But that's all I'll say. I'll pass it on to somebody else so that
all right,
get this going.
Loki, how did you become a fan of professional wrestling?
Oh, dude. Okay. So it was probably 87. I'm pretty sure it was 87. And I was old because wrestling was not watched in my house. I was over at a buddy's house and it was Saturday night and he turned on Saturday Night Main Event.
Yes.
And I was like, what in God's name is this? And we spent half a night DDTing each other and suplex and doing the just stupidest shit you do when you're 8 years old, how long can you hold them up and then slam them down on the carpet, right? So I go home, and the next time we go to the video store, and these were like little mom and pop stores, we didn't have Blockbuster or any of that shit then. I'm like over at the sports section looking through, and I'm like, okay, WrestleMania and this and that. And what the hell you doing? You ain't watching that shit. and I mean, I had to pay for it. So I'm mowing lawns. I'm doing anything I can to get a couple of bucks. So on the weekends, I can rent the Royal Rumble, the WrestleMania, whatever it was, I could rent it. And we like stole cable from the neighbor back when you like had the RF, the RF hookup in the back of the TV. You just splice the cable, run it over the fence, and right. But that was in the living room, and that was it. So it's like anytime, turn that shit off, boy, what the hell you doing? And every once in a while, my mom would let me watch it. And then my dad would come home, what the hell you doing, boy? Turn that damn shit up. So fast forward to 1996. My mom had her own business. She built her own business up. We were doing better, but every summer we were going somewhere, and we were in a hotel in New Mexico when I see fucking Scott Hall on WWF or on WCW, and I'm like, Razor Ramones? What the hell is Razor Ramones? And here comes Kevin Nash, and they're like, we're going to take over this bitch. And I'm going, what in the hell is going on? WWF is invading WCW? No, we're taking over. We're going to run this bitch. We're going to run everybody out. We're going to take over for the company. The other companies come to get us, right? And I bought into all this shit. And I'm bugging my dad. I have to go to Florida. We have to go to Florida. I have to go to Florida. I want to go to Florida. You're going to go to this match. We're going to go to Bash at the Beach, and we've got to do this, and I'll pay the money for it, and I'll pay the gas for it. I've got the money because I work for my mom like almost every summer. So finally, my mom has this talk with me because I don't understand. He's being a total dick about it. I'm like, I'll pay for it. I ain't gonna need no damn wrestling, boy. And my mom pulls me aside and she's like, listen, you know that your grandfather left your dad and his brothers and sisters when he was 12. And I said, yeah, I know. He's a total dick. I never met the guy. He just abandoned my grandmother and my dad and his brother and his two sisters. And she goes, they used to go to wrestling on the weekends, the local. And I was like, oh, shit.
Oh, wow.
So she's like, I'll talk to him, but you got to stop asking him to like go to the match with you. Take Christopher, take someone with you and just go with them and stop. So I did. And we got to go. We got to go to what the hell was the name of the stadium? It was Ocean something. Ocean Center. It was the Ocean Center. So I got to go. We go to the Ocean Center and he's dropped me off and he goes, I want you to have a really good time. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm at I'm going to see wrestling and he's telling me to have a good time. And me and my buddy Chris go in and it was absolutely nuts. I'll get into more of that later when we talk about it. But that one thing cemented my love of wrestling until WCW ended. And that's pretty much when I stopped watching wrestling, was when WCW ended. When Vince bought WCW, that was it for me. I was done.
All right. So Phoenix, before I get to you, Loki had mentioned Scott Hall, and all I've got to say for everybody here on the panel, everybody watching the stream live, everybody watching it after the fact, everybody in the chat right now, just going to say one thing.
Hey, yo.
Yes. Yes.
Man, we missed that man already so much.
Too sweet.
Okay.
Yes. Go ahead.
So am I up next? I couldn't remember.
Yes. You're you're next. I mean, I could skip you.
Hey, go for it next.
Hold on, can I just say who's next?
I will take Goldberg in a Rogum Regal style match and see how he goes with me. We'll make him look like a chump. But comparatively, when it comes to like wrestling, it's just been like literally there since I was little. Like I remember like I was watching, and my dad of course would watch, but I remember literally watching Superfly and fucking was it Macho Man and dropping elbows on him while he's trying to sleep, all this other stuff. And it's just like from there I was always watching. So of course, everybody as a kid, they're huge fans of like, Hogan and all that because it's just built in how you were as a kid at that time. I remember watching The Undertaker's first match. And I'm just like, okay, this is my dude. So I was always like following around. I was always the heels. Jake the Snake is still one of my favorite people of all time when it comes to a promo, just because no one like that psychology is just unmatched. And it's just like, it's crazy. Like that even now, I think like, of course we're always going to reminisce and we're always going to love like, it was like the golden era. We're going to go about the attitude era. We're going to go with all this. I believe we're in one of the best work rate eras that we've ever had. And it's like now, like when I'm watching, I'm like, people will be like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like that. I'm like, cool. It's flavors. It's everything you like. but I'll watch Japanese. Like I'm watching New Japan, and I'm like, this is the best stuff I've ever seen. I'm watching AJ Styles in Japan. Was it watching Prince Devitt? Like watching when Bullet Club first formed up. It's like this is like I'm in love with wrestling more than I've been in a long time, and there's more places for workers to work. So this is kind of like it's most exciting and most awesome time. But when it comes down to it, it's just like I'm so like more energized as a wrestling fan now than I have been in years.
Very nice. And I'm going to make my answer very short, very brief. I got into wrestling in the 1980s with WWF superstars. And it only took one man to get me hooked into wrestling, and that's the Macho Man. Ooh, yeah. Dig it.
Snap into a Slim Jim.
Arguably, that voice alone made the Macho Man more popular than Hogan.
I got you for 3 minutes.
3 minutes of playtime.
He's a better wrestler too.
You're going nowhere.
Yeah. And,
Then again-
and he's a rapper.
Be a man, Hulk. Don't be scared.
50 Cent in the commercial for it. He's like, yo, Macho Man's coming in with it, bro.
Oh gosh, if there's anybody that created great memories, it was the Macho Man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was larger than life.
And it rises to the tippity top.
It's just too bad that we couldn't get a three-way rap battle between Macho Man, John Cena, and Max Caster.
Oh my god, I'm
Oh
so
my
in.
goodness, that would be truly insane.
So all this stuff everybody remembers with Macho Man, his outfits and the glasses and all this stuff, Slim Jim. I just remember Elizabeth. I
love you.
God.
That was the thing. Like wrestlers had managers at the time, and he had Elizabeth. Get over here.
You had lust in your eyes, Hogan.
What broken home thing?
He also at one point had, I believe, Queen Sherry, I think her name was.
Oh yeah. It was until that. What was it? WrestleMania 6 or 7. That
I think it's
that
7.
he ditched Sherry. Sherry ran from the ring and like abandoned him, and then Elizabeth came in, and it was like everybody was fucking crying. Everybody's crying like, "Oh my god, it's Elizabeth!" And he's like, "Ooh, Elizabeth!" and raises her up, puts her up on his shoulder, and everybody's going fucking insane at WrestleMania because Elizabeth and Macho Man got back together.
This was all pre-tassel Macho Man. Pre handlebar ribbon Macho Man.
Yes, I mean, there's one thing about Macho Man.
Ooh, yeah. Macho Man Randy Savage, Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion. I am the Lord and Master of the Ring.
For me, the best Macho Man promo will always be the one where he's like, and the queen will rise to the top. Oh yeah, you know what I mean, Mean Gene Okerlund.
That and also where he's talking down Tito Santana. Coffee in the big time, yeah. Cup of coffee.
The best part was like, just gonna toss this into the trash can like Tito Santana's career. Oh yeah.
Part of the danger zone.
Oh my god, it's so good. The danger zone.
I wonder if that promo came out before Kenny Loggins' song.
I'm gonna say that the Macho Man is the reason for that, and then you know what I'm gonna say is Kenny Loggins needs to pay royalties to his family.
So does Top Gun.
To the estate.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me look at one more comment here, and then I'll get to the next question.
Hold on, I didn't go over how I got into wrestling.
It doesn't matter.
What?
What? It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
That one.
What?
What?
that was one of the clips I was trying to get. I couldn't get it to render, so because I
can send you the
I was gonna be
longer one if
funny
you
with
want.
someone. I was gonna pick one of you, and I was gonna be funny with one of you, and go. It doesn't matter what you think. But unfortunately, it wouldn't render. But go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
Okay, so as I said, and I actually have a clip to show with this.
Okay.
The very first thing that I ever truly noticed of wrestling was these compilations of funny moments from when Raw and SmackDown go off the air. In fact, I tried to find the original compilation that I found, but I couldn't find it. But this moment was part of it. This was after Raw went off the air. This is The Rock, The Undertaker when he was the American Bad A, and Kane, and Triple H is lying in the middle of the ring, and just randomly The Rock asks The Undertaker this.
Yeah, I want to, since you showed that clip, I want to ask a quick question. We all seem to be fans of wrestling for being fans of wrestling and accepting in these things. How did you guys feel when Kane kind of changed his image, changed his look, but then not only that, but became very personable?
I was
in
okay with
that like that clip we were just watching there. He was still Kane, you know, the Red Inferno or whatever. I forget what exactly they called him back then.
Oh,
but his
Big Rim Machine.
personality changed. He was joking with people backstage, and you know, he was not exactly a good guy, but he was a friendly wrestler for a good time. I'm just curious how people think of that, you know, to take, because Undertaker changed his image, but he was still kind of the same kick butt and, you know, kick-ass tech named better guy, even though he wasn't the undead guy he was before.
Right.
But I didn't know how people felt like how with Kane.
I think evolution
is hilarious.
For me personally, I was okay with all of that, but where I think they went too far was taking his mask off.
Yeah,
that's more of.
I'll agree with that, but in one right. But I do like the fact when he took it off, he showed a little bit of a different side of himself when he went. Like the hair was dumb as hell.
Yeah,
when they first did it, it was really bad. But I loved like the sadistic side where he's doing shit you would never expect, and he's doing stuff like in the next like. I mean, come on, Shane McMahon getting his nuts like hooked up to a car battery. But the other stuff, like when he set JR on fire, like that was like, I'm like watching it and I'm like, this is a problem.
Linda McMahon,
Michael Myers level shit. Yeah.
Yes. And it was amazing to watch in that regard.
Quick interjection. I took it like he was really playing up, because wasn't he in the horror movie right then?
See No Evil came a little bit later, just a little bit.
That persona. Yeah. That's what I took that as. But it was drastic. Sorry to do that.
Oh no, fine. But yeah, and also when it comes to like we were talking about the personable version of him, the stuff he did with Booker T was hilarious. Like that killed me when he started like doing Canaanites and shit like that.
Cana Rooney.
Yes.
What about the Taker Rooney?
Yeah, I remember that.
That was another
wrestlers are even
moment.
looking at each other. They're like, "What, Canaan?"
I love that Undertaker addressed that in his Hall of Fame speech. By the way,
so good.
The fact that he brought the attention to it, I love that.
Booker T's out there, shucky ducky, quack quack.
Well, don't forget the Undertaker's the only as far as I know, the Undertaker's the only wrestler that's ever been in a mirror match with himself.
That is not true. Kane has two.
Has Kane? Okay.
Yes,
if Kane did, I never saw it.
With Doc Gallows as
I
Kane.
believe it was Armageddon 2006.
Kane
wrestled Kane when he was unmasked wrestled a mask, basically his previous version when he debuted. Under the mask, by the way, we now know him as Doc Gallows of the Good Brothers.
Festus as well.
Oh, yeah.
And let's not forget the Wish.com version of Kane versus Kane when we got Sin Cara versus Sin Cara.
I love that dude. Oh, Sin Cara Negro.
Well, let's not hijack too much.
Yeah, true.
Well, does anyone else have anything to add as far as the question Padawannabe had regarding Kane?
It's a good expansion of. You can actually see what Glenn Jacobs could do personally wasn't just the static monster in the ring, which was at that point getting a little old.
It was time to evolve.
Yeah. And
Well,
now
we
he's a
seem
mayor.
like it seems like the consensus here. It seems like public view was kind of past the sellout view of somebody, because that's pretty much kind of what he did. He became a totally different person.
Oh yeah.
You know, in the way I was just curious because he was such a big icon, and for him to change so drastically, I didn't know if people, because none of the people I knew it mattered to. But I know in other industries, when people do such a drastic change, it's like, oh, nope, I'm never talking or listening or watching anything that guy does again.
Well, true. And if it wasn't entertaining, it probably would have been that. Like if like he didn't really pull it off, and like he just shit the bed on it, then people probably would have been like, oh, it's not the same Kane. Oh, this is crap. So at least he made it entertaining, so people like really just let it fly.
True, I guess. And if anybody would be an older brother, see if I see my brother laughing his butt off at something, even if I was like, oh, that was okay, never mind.
Well, I do have something here to share with all of you regarding Kane as far as my feelings about Kane. Let's see if we can.
It's the big man this thing! He's back! Oh my gosh! It's Kane!
Oh yes. That would have been so good. You see, that's the one thing that I am a bit jealous of, the fact where I live. If I wanted to go see a show, I would have to either go to Salt Lake City or to Boise. I'm not in a place that is big enough to support something like that. But even though I wasn't able to go to any of these shows, I still have very fond memories of the TV. And actually, I do have a clip loaded up of the early days of The Undertaker.
Okay.
A big quick hit.
Hey, real quick, y'all. I just wanted to say I'm on my head out, but it's been fun. Y'all have a great time.
You as well, brother.
All right.
Ooh, yeah.
See you later, Quidman.
Ooh, yeah. Dig it, brother.
You're afraid of the claw.
Oh, God.
So yeah, if you'll load the clip up, it's a shorty, but it's a goodie.
Not a problem.
All right, let's see. There's the tab. Turn on the volume. Here we go.
Ooh.
Giving it to Jimmy Snuka.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look how young he was. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I remember when he debuted. How
who brought him out? Who brought him
6.
out?
Oh, it was the $1 Million Man.
It was the $1 Million Man. It was the $1 Million Man.
Yeah, saying, and now introducing the final competitor. I give you the Undertaker. And then Bobby Heenan is like, oh my God, look at the size of that ham hock.
Yep, I remember that. 6'8", 330 pounds, just all lean, mean, and holy crap machine.
Yeah.
And then remember his other manager. I love you.
Yes.
Jimmy Hart.
No.
Oh, Brother Love.
Brother Love.
Oh, yeah.
He was with Brother Love for a short time before he went to Paul Bearer, and of course Paul Bearer was like,
"Oh yes,
oh yes, my Undertaker."
Hot take.
All right.
Paul Bearer is a better manager than Paul Heyman.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
You can make the
Yeah.
argument. And it's just like, because I do love Paul Heyman the way now I will say, if you want a good laugh about something and you think about it, before he came into WWE, Mean Mark Callis was part of the Dangerous Alliance with Paulie Dangerously. So good old Paul Heyman.
Oh yeah.
Well, what's his face? Bobby the Brain Heenan. He doesn't think of, when you think of him, I think of him more as the commentator, but he was also a damn good manager too. He always would try to find the way to help his guy win and doing all sorts of heel shit to make sure that it actually happened.
Didn't he manage Andre
Yes.
the Giant
When
at
he turned?
WrestleMania 3?
Yep.
Yes.
Wow.
Because
That was the necklace moment.
Right.
And remember when Andre won the bag of money and Andre started tossing it out and Bobby's like, no.
Yeah, and he like slaps Andre, and Andre's looking down at him like, you just messed up, little man. Yeah.
All of a sudden, I think of Fezzik. We'll hit you in the head with a rock, or we could fight like men.
I am the Brute Squad. You are the Brute Squad.
That is so good.
Yes.
One of my favorite things to watch is videos of Andre just doing interviews with Mean Gene, and the two are just having fun with each other. Like the time when Andre takes his hand and goes like this to Mean Gene, or the time that Mean Gene puts on Andre's blazer and he literally looks like a kid wearing his dad's suit jacket.
Love Mean Gene.
Wasn't Mean Gene great? I mean, he had such the voice, he had such the presence of doing the announcing. Of course, he was also a wrestler. I mean, so it was like, it wasn't just some guy they threw in there, and he had that charisma.
Well, also he was so professional. Like, did you ever? I love seeing him break. There's a video online of when the sign dropped. He's like, "What the fuck?" Or like, "What the shit?"
I'm gonna try
he
and
just
find
totally drops it. It's so good. Like, he just curses about the sign dropping. And I'm like, the most professional man. Was it God? Anything he did. Him and Macho Man, like the cream of the crop moment.
I have that clip.
Okay.
Do y'all remember when Mean Gene, they were in Vegas doing the one at Caesar's Palace, and the Finkel had that robe on, right? That Caesar's robe, and you hear Mean Gene go, "Hey, Howard, pizza." And he's like, ha, like, fuck you.
Oh, the ribbing in that room.
All right.
Gentlemen, as you know, the Ultimate Warrior. Fuck it.
All right, who was the wrestler? Who was the wrestler?
Rick Rude.
Oh, yes.
Rude.
That's a Minnesota boy right there, too, because I think he came from the same place as Kurt Hennig, like the same high school.
They had the same hair.
Yeah.
Same perm.
And Glenn Jacobs rocked that perm for a while, too.
He did. Only Rick Rude, though, would have the balls to emblazon Miss Elizabeth, or whoever it was, Miss Elizabeth, on his tights when facing Macho Man.
Well, didn't he also do? God, I think it was it Jake Roberts' like wife at the time, like her face on his crotch?
That's what I'm thinking of, because it was Ric Flair that was getting into Macho Man's mind with Elizabeth, not Rick Rude.
Oh yeah, with those pictures of them beside the pool, it's like, I
and
guess
on the
something's
boat,
happening.
the boat with the champagne and all that. Oh my God, I forgot all about that shit.
Oh, it's so good.
It was in the magazine.
Before
it's like
she was
exposed.
yours, she was mine.
Oh God.
Oh yes.
Oh, the magazines too. Oh yeah.
Oh, dude. WWF magazine was an art form back in the day.
Yes, it was.
Oh, so good.
All right, so moving on to question number 2. Now, some of you may have already answered it, but go ahead and continue on with what you previously said. Did you like it right away, or did it take more than one viewing? And Resolute Germ, you can go first on this one.
No, as far as I can remember, I always liked it. It's some of my earliest memories, and I associate it a lot with my uncle and all those years growing up, going over to his place to watch it. So I can't remember not liking wrestling. I don't like everything it's done, but at the core, I've always liked wrestling.
Okay. Padawannabe.
Yeah, I would say it's probably I was too young to recognize if I liked something after a few viewings. I was definitely at that age where I saw something, I like it or I don't. And I liked it enough that I just was enamored with it. you know, like I said, the action figures and all the stuff, and just learning all the names and all the moves, and you know, liked it right away. I would say wouldn't probably taken of many viewings, if more than one. You know, and no more satisfying feeling than doing that figure 4 leg lock on somebody and realizing that that actually is a real move.
Oh,
Yeah, that hurts like
oh
hell.
yeah. There's a story about that the Hearts have told, and this is actually about Chris Jericho, about their dad putting a guy down in the dungeon in this, like, it was a over the shoulder hold or some shit like that, and you could hear this guy screaming down the block. That was fucking Chris Jericho screaming because Bret Hart's dad put him in this lock hold, and it was just he the worst experience he ever had putting him in that damn thing, and it was nuts. It's nuts, yeah. Half of this shit you do to somebody, it's gonna fucking hurt.
Well, that and Stu would stretch you. Like that's
Yeah.
like everything I've ever heard about Stu Hart is he was just sadistic as hell.
Yeah, the Too Hard Dungeon. I mean, you just hear horror stories coming out of it.
And the cool part is we actually get to see what the dungeon looks like in that random quote unquote dungeon match that Ken Shamrock has against Owen Hart with Dan Severn as the referee.
Yes.
It was like in 1998 or something.
All right.
Oh,
Anyone
yeah.
else have anything to add to this question?
I liked it right away.
All right.
Pretty much.
Yeah, no question. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and once you see the $1 Million Man go, and
Everybody's
push all the
got a
money
price.
around, you can't go wrong with the $1 Million Man.
Same. It's like literally, and I'm an easy mark when it comes to stuff like this. I'll admit that any day of the week. I mean, let's just keep this real. What I've been munching on right now the whole time is Kurt Angle's chicken snacks. So
It's true.
For real.
It's true.
yeah. So I've got
Wow.
Kurt to that point right now. That's how much of a mark I am. So 100% minute one.
Nice.
I mean, I guess for me, it's,
Question for you, man. Have you ever had a bowl of the New Day's Bootios?
Yes, and it's just Lucky Charms.
Go ahead, Barrett.
candy
You had-
ass.
You had something to say, Barrett?
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, for me, it's kind of hard to say because, like I said, it was so permeated here in the Twin Cities. Even from the youngest days, just remembering seeing these people in one fashion or another. It's hard for me to say, did I like it right away or did it take more one viewing? It was just one of those things that was just part of everyday life around here. It really was. So I guess you might say, yeah, from the beginning, it was just, yeah, you didn't get a chance. Let's put it that. We just didn't get a chance to have one way or another. You were just, it was there.
All right. So I'm going to move on to the next question. I'm actually going to group two of the questions together because they, are a yes or no type of answer. So, first question I originally submitted was: is it a sport or is it sports entertainment?
It's both. It really
Yeah.
is. In order to do this job, you have to be athletic. You have to be it. You have to have it. Now, in more recent years, especially going into the 80s and more television broadcast or nationwide TV broadcast, that did expand more into the entertainment side because these guys had to be okay enough actors to be able to sell the character that they've been given to work with, like the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. I watched a special about him, and when he was going, it was actually Vince McMahon that came up with the whole idea, the whole concept, and Ted DiBiase was like, he went with it, and from that point forward, all the stuff they did, he had to have buckets of cash lying around. He had to be shown in all these things, and he had to run the persona for years, and he sold it. Not only that, Ted DiBiase was a tactician in the ring. He knew what he was doing. And speaking of introducing someone into the world of wrestling, or at least to the WWF, after he fell out of favor with the WCW. If you'll share the screen, you'll see who it is.
Okay.
I know who this is.
What?
Yep.
Oh,
He
it's
was
the
$1 million
Ringmaster.
champ.
The Ringmaster.
Yep, the
Stone
Ringmaster.
Cold Steve Austin. Well, he
Yep,
was just
that
the
was the
Ringmaster
debut.
Steve Austin. And the thing is, we wouldn't have Austin in WWF if he hadn't gone to ECW.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He was in WCW for a long time. They never gave him a spotlight. He went to ECW, then he went to WWF, then he became Stone Cold, and now, he's a fucking legend.
Yeah.
Yes,
he was
he is.
specifically in WCW in a tag team with Brian Pillman
Yes.
as the Hollywood
Oh,
yeah.
Blondes. And
Yep.
then
All
later
Blondes.
on, as the two of them are both in WWF, they have this feud where for the only time we see someone actually pull a gun on a
Mhm.
wrestler.
Yep. And it hasn't happened since.
Nope, it has not. That was. I remember when all that shit went down. I was like, "What the hell am I seeing?"
And nobody with a loose cannon could have pulled that off.
Oh yeah, it still
Brandon-
amazes me. Go ahead.
Brandon brought up, the technical side of this. I remember watching a Hart documentary, the Hart Foundation documentary, where he's talking about Hogan couldn't do a leg drop better than his grandmother. His grandmother could do a leg drop better than Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was not in any way, shape, or form a technical wrestler. He was a showman. He went out there, he gave the people a show, he got them hyped up, and he got paid a lot of money for it. And there's that divide. There's always been that divide. It's one of the reasons why technical wrestlers, a lot of them hate Hollywood people that come into wrestling and try and be someone. They're like, no, get the hell out. Rowdy had the biggest problem with Mr. T coming in. He's like, no, I'm not getting knocked out by him. I'm not getting pinned by him. I'm not going to lose during the match. You're going to have to disqualify me. I'm not doing any of this shit because I will not let some Hollywood actor come in and ruin my reputation. It's bad enough we've got Hogan, someone like Hogan, who doesn't know wrestling for squat. He's just a big muscle-bound brute that the crowd loves.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I mean, you had that feud between him in real life between him and Ventura.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Just for the same reason. It's like you're not wrestling. You're pretty face.
Okay, who remembers Mike Tyson showing up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That set the world on fire.
The early day.
Tyson and Austin.
Yep.
I'm
Been
going
sitting
back
there
further than
marking out in the top.
I'm talking about even before that. This is
Oh, wow.
before he had
Went to
his
jail.
prison problems.
Yeah.
Before he went to prison.
Oh, young
He-
Tyson.
Yes, very young Tyson. I remember he was supposed to be the ref for a match between if I remember correctly, Macho Man and Hogan, if I remember correctly. And at the end of it, he ended up he gave Macho Man a fistful of kisser.
Yeah, he was
I
a
can
guest
still-
referee in the beginning. Yeah.
God,
I
Kid
can
Dynamite
still
Tyson.
see him on the very end of the show holding his face, hamming it up. But you know what? I wonder if he did actually take a hold punch from him, because it looked like he made contact.
I would put it past him. He always was for the look of it.
Well, Mike Tyson's not a guy who trained to pull his punch ever.
Yeah, no.
Unless
no.
they,
He just there
unless
to kill
they
you.
practice that scene many, many times. I'll bet you there was some contact for sure. But I wanted to comment on this question real quick. I've always looked at it. It has to be sports entertainment, because it doesn't matter your physical prowess. Someday you just don't get to win the match.
True.
It
That's
has
right.
no bearing on how you are as a wrestler. The story's not going that way. So there's not a true competition for a champion. They
And
do
not-
have championship, and that's the only way. That's the same way I would say it's fake sports, only because it's planned. But it's as athletic and as you have to be as smart as the next guy. And we've all heard those stories when the guy's like, "No, I'm not losing," and becomes a total a-hole in the match and ruins it for everybody, and people physically get hurt.
Yeah.
And nothing screams
That's
that
not
more.
how wrestling's supposed to work. Those guys work together, even
Yep.
and we've all heard documentary stories of people going, "Oh, something happened in the middle of the match, and I had to code word it, be like, we're done." And the other guy's like, "Okay, we'll do this real quick, and we're out of here. We'll get you help."
Take it home.
They're not looking to hurt anybody,
Nope.
except those exceptions. Hart and a few things got out of hand a few different times. Because I remember watching. Sorry, I'm sidetracking, but I remember watching Bret Hart get really bent out of shape a few times, and it's like those guys weren't supposed to get bloody in that match.
Well,
The
Bret
other
Hart
guy's
didn't even
fighting
want
back literally.
Bret
and
Hart
sports
didn't want to drop the
entertainment
title.
Doesn't have that kind of ego where it can ruin another man's career.
Yeah, Mike, that's what I was going to bring up was that title fight that he lost that he was so pissed off about because they were like, no, you're not losing. And then boom, he goes out there. He loses after a 2 count and everybody saw it and everybody was booing, but he was going to WCW. And Vince was like, no damn way am I letting someone carry the title to WCW.
It wasn't a 2 count. It was
Phantom submission.
It was them ringing the bell, even though he never tapped.
Sharpshooter.
And then you saw your first legitimate backstage attack on camera.
On camera. That's the big one.
The real way.
Yeah, I remember that. Shawn Michaels, he came from what he says about it. When Bret Hart came back to him and said, "What the F, man?" He's like, "I had nothing to do with this. This is as big a surprise to me as it is to you." And that's when he went to McMahon and gave him a piece of his mind.
Yep.
And
piece of his fist right there.
And speaking of Shawn Michaels, talking about someone going off script and being bent out of shape for losing, go look at the match that Shawn Michaels had with Hulk Hogan in 2005.
I was there.
And the way that he just oversells everything. Because if I remember the story correctly, number one, Shawn turned heel at Hulk Hogan's request, which he didn't want to. And number two, they were supposed to have a trilogy of matches that Shawn was at least supposed to do one. But Hulk, being Hulk, decided, you know what, brother, I only want to do one match because of my back issues. So they had the one match, and Hulk won, but Shawn Michaels way oversold everything.
So good. It's magic.
And the only good thing to come out of this time period was the fact that Shawn Michaels was a heel, and they happened to be in Montreal, and we get that great promo of him just egging on the Montreal crowd, and then Bret Hart's music hits, and it's a trick.
So good.
That crowd that night when that happened, that crowd was hot. You don't get wrestling crowds like that anymore.
No,
you don't.
No. I mean, when it comes around, it's sports entertainment. I mean, obviously it has to be, because if they're out there doing most of the stuff for real, they kill each other. There have been times when you had two wrestlers that had a little animosity towards each other about something. They went out there for real, and those were quick matches. Like, boom, boom, it was done. It's like, okay, well, time for the next match. Let's see if we can draw that one out a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And of course, do we all remember the wrestlers would get a little extra for cutting themselves? They'd have the little razor blades.
Yeah.
So
gigging.
a little cut. And before, I don't think they do that now, obviously, for many reasons.
I've seen a few.
They still do it in AEW.
Yeah, they
I've also seen it in other places too. It's like you look around,
local promotion all over the place.
Yeah,
and I think even sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think even in WWE, a few of those are gigs because it's too rough when you see a hard way for real that you can tell it's a jagged rip because it's a rip cut. It's like it's too clean with some of the ones where you see them accidentally bleed on the show.
Yeah. And, obviously these guys have to be. It's a stunt show. It is a big stunt show. And, of course, we all know stunt shows can go wrong. Unfortunately, in wrestling, there have been some stuff that went drastically wrong in there.
Oh, yeah.
I used to do live steel combat. And with the live steel combat, it was basically, these are the only moves you're allowed. You do these moves because if you do anything other than that, you're going to hurt each other bad. And learn to pull your when you do go in for whatever it is for your killing strokes and such like that. But other than that, it was a free for all. We didn't know who was going to win, who was going to lose. It was still a skill thing, but that's different. It wasn't a scripted out that you would have to have. We need to have this type of winner, that type of winner, that larger of the show. But yeah, it is sport, but it's sport entertainment.
I would equate it to going to watch an extremely, extremely physical stage show, because that's essentially what we're watching is soap opera drama being played out in the ring in front of a live crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys start making fun of your wives watching the soap operas and then sit down and watch wrestling. Shut up.
Yeah.
I've seen bad acting on both, so I can't,
I agree with all your guys' points. It is a sport and it's also entertainment. I mean, look at the spectacle that WrestleMania has become.
Yep.
It's so big they have to make it 2 nights now.
Well, you remember when they didn't?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And you take a look at some of the background of these guys going back to all the way back in the 40s. This guy was a football player. This person was this. This person was a real wrestler. They were at the University of Minnesota wrestling team. So these guys were, sports people. They know what to do and how to do it and how to stay in shape. But it's just everything just kind of changes now. And we are now having ourselves a show. We're going to have ourselves Paul. I think it became more of a soap opera as it went along than the old days. But yeah, that's what you got.
Exactly.
All right, so that moves on to the next question I had for you guys. Who are your favorite male or female singles wrestlers?
Are we talking current day or all time?
All time.
All time
All
for
right.
me, male wrestler, easily The Undertaker. Female wrestler, goodness, that's a hard one. I'm gonna go Bianca Belair.
Okay. Loki.
Oh man, this is such a difficult question. It's got to be Hollywood Hogan. Because I mean, just that turn. I remember hearing that music that night, dude, and literally grabbing my friend, going, "Hogan's turned heel! Hogan's turned heel!" And he hadn't even gotten to the ring yet. He hadn't even done anything, and I knew what was gonna happen. And it was just like the perfect guy to hate. Oh, I'm gonna go up and make a movie. Oh, no one's as great as me. No one's ever beaten me. And then Roddy Piper comes down and it's like, I'm the only man you never able to beat. And he's like, no. And I mean, it's just the showmanship. The showmanship. I don't give a shit whether my grandma could do a better leg drop or not. It was the showmanship, what he did, and he entertained and he brought the 80s alive for wrestling. Him and the Ultimate Warrior, he did it in the 90s as Hollywood. He did it in the 2000s. And every time you see him, it's just that there he is. There he is. It's fucking Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, whatever you want to call him. My favorite iteration, though, was when he was Hollywood. When he was a heel, it was just like, what are you going to do?
And speaking of Hollywood, he even had a cameo in the movie Muppets in Space and actually cut a promo. He's in the movie, but he is himself. And he's like, listen up, I am still Hollywood Hulk Hogan, so on and so forth. And they're like, wait, Hollywood, why are you working with the bad guys? And he's like, I'm a bad guy now.
Which Rocky film was he in again? Was it 3?
Rocky 3. Thunder
Yeah.
Lips. Yeah. I am Thunder Lips.
Yep.
Ultimate male versus the ultimate meatball.
Yes.
As far as chicks go, God, what was that chick's name that was in the pencil skirt back in WCW? She used to be a Nitro girl.
Stacy Keibler?
Stacy Keibler. Oh my God, what a set of legs. She got legs for days. My God, even what was that? What was that Weasley little bastard that was on the crew? Shivani? Was it Shivani that was always like, oh, I remember when Stacy Keibler was a Nitro girl and I got to smell her. I got to smell her when she walked by one day. And you're like, God damn, man.
Calm down, Shivani.
Yeah, calm down, brother. But yeah, it had to be Stacy Keibler, dude. Legs for days. She was such a beauty, such an absolute beauty.
Yeah, I
So
see what
that
you
would
mean.
be mine.
All right, Baron.
Well, it has to be Baron von Raschke. I mean, back in those times, even though you had, Vern Gagne, those others, when you had the Baron going out there and he's got the claw and he's got that fake German, he's trying to tell everybody he was born in Germany when he wasn't. He was born in Omaha, Nebraska. And you start seeing him off to the side, and he actually ran. There we go. There we go. I mean, how can you not like, or in many ways hate him?
He looks like a more muscular Baron Corbin.
Oh God.
And actually, he had a souvenir shop for the longest time up in northern Minnesota, believe it or not. So that's when he retired out there. But the voice, everything, him interacting with Mean Gene, all across the board. I mean, he was such a colorful character. I mean, obviously, I like Macho Man. I mean, Macho Man was lively. You'd think that I would say Ventura, but I don't think Ventura was as big as a draw as people like Hogan and Macho Man and all the others that you had out there. As it goes for women wrestling, I didn't really experience much of that. I mean, even though you had glamorous women of wrestling or glamorous ladies of wrestling, we had Medusa here. And of course, I'm familiar with China, obviously, for many reasons, but I can't really put a finger down for a female wrestler. But, we need another Baron von Raschke out there. We need a new one. Son of Raschke.
Resolute Germ.
Favorite male has to be Macho Man. He was the best talker of his era. He buried Hogan. He was just great in the ring. Very athletic. Again, especially compared to that lump of meat Hogan.
He looked like he loved it too.
Yeah.
You could see
the
love.
All right, Brandon.
As far as women go,
Yeah,
you have to go to the newer crop, like the Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Bayley, Sasha Banks, because it's the last 10 years, I say, is the only time it's really been serious, especially in America. So out of that group, I'd have to go with Charlotte Flair. She does combination in ring and on the mic better than the others.
All right, Brandon.
Oh, such a tough question with so many answers. I would like to say all of them because every single one of them that ever stepped into the squared circle and really made a name for themselves, they all had to have the it factor going for them, at least to some extent. Some more than others, and as I mentioned, the Attitude Era is really the era that I remember the most and had the most fun with. As far as for the WWF, and of course all of them that were in the NWO and the WCW. But if I had to put it to just one, I think I would have to go with Steve Austin. If for no other reason, during his time when he was healthy, he could command everything. You never knew what the hell he was going to do. And the one regret that I do know that he has, and he said it, is when Vince had him turn heel that one time where they shared the beers and he didn't attack him. He was like, damn it, I should have said to Vince, I'm calling an audible. If we do this, we're gonna make bank. But he didn't do it. And that's the one regret he had. But other than that, up when he first came into there, winning against Jake the Snake Roberts, proclaiming Austin 316 and all the way up through, and always being that anti-hero type of person. The person that when he first came in was just so you couldn't stand him, but over the time he won everybody. And it didn't hurt the fact that he drove a beer truck into there and gave old McMahon a beer bath.
Very true.
And now he sells detergent.
Yeah, or filled up the limo with concrete. That was a good one. Yeah, for that I would
Or
have to go with
teaming up
Steve
with
Austin.
Big Show to tear down the Titantron.
Yes. As far as female wrestlers, I always had a soft spot for China, and she was a desperately tortured soul, and
Yeah.
the way that she passed was very difficult to take, but she had abilities. She could do it, and at that time there was nobody else physically as a woman that could come close to her.
She was something
No
else.
one.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't exactly a bad looking gal, so
No.
No.
And McMahon was kind of unmerciful with her too when she left. I mean,
yeah,
it was
none of that surprises me.
Yeah, she
Well, at
didn't
the
really
time,
leave under
McMahon
great
was all about
circumstances.
the pussy. McMahon wanted the punani. He wanted blonde bombshells. He didn't want someone that looked like China. He wanted blonde shells because that's what WCW was doing with the Nitro Girls, Stacy Keibler, all of them. They had all these really good looking women that couldn't wrestle for shit. And that's what McMahon said. That's what I want. I want girls like that. I don't want girls like you.
It's because of this man that I think that she stuck around as long as she did. Hunter, I remember when he first came in, having the super prim and prom of a Bostonian upbringing, the ties to the old world of British colonialism, starting off that way. But then as soon as him and Shawn Michaels turned DX and brought in a few other guys, that was hilarious. That was fun.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
And
they could do shit you couldn't even think of doing these days.
So I have a question for everyone. How did y'all react when Triple H seemingly tossed China aside for Stephanie? I think personally that was a bit of a downgrade.
I was pissed.
Well, he's still with her, and he pretty much once a McMahon passes, he's pretty much the de facto.
That is true.
He is in the family. He knows the business. He can then take over for the old man once he finally bumps him off.
Said with the same.
I hope he doesn't do that.
Said with the same energy of, "I am more powerful than him, Padme. I can overthrow him, and then you and I can rule the galaxy."
That was still too much emotion there. Paul's like, Padme, I can overthrow him, and we can rule the galaxy. Now, too much inflection there, Master Paul. Come on, bring it down. You're overacting.
I'm doing it the way it should have been done.
For Triple H, it would have been, I can overthrow him. I can give him the pedigree. Then I'll grab a sledgehammer.
All right, and the last thing I will say about Triple H, and this is where music, they always had great intro music, but let's face facts. When he met Lemmy and Motorhead, boom. That's when that was just, there was nothing else like it. You can't go wrong with Motorhead, and let alone Lemmy writing a song for you and performing it for the first time live at a WWF event.
Mm-hmm.
Does that rank even higher than Frank Dribbin and going out there for the one?
Hey, he did have the sex symbol George Kennedy with him, so
definitely. I was going to say. I mean,
all right, Scott, you go.
Let's do this. Okay, so it's essentially like this is going to change with the moment. That's the biggest thing of just how it flows with me. But to be completely honest, I'm giving two for my top here. I have to, because they're so intertwined. The tattoo that's blazoned on my arm is by this man, just by an idea. But CM Punk, like, he came in and just wrecked the game. Like, when he came into WWE and started, like, it's like walking into a house and throwing shit. Like, he just, like, there was just something, like, at that moment that brought me back into loving it again. But now here's where the other tie comes in, because the other one's Samoa Joe. Because the fact I don't think he gets enough love at how amazing he really is. Like, I was watching, like, him and Punk in Ring of Honor is some of the best wrestling I've ever seen in my life. The Summer of Punk and then Punk Joe's rivalry, you can't beat it. Like, that man, like, he looks like somebody who could just kill you right then. And the fact, like, he just said it in like he cut a promo at the end of the press conference when he joined Ring of Honor and AEW, where he's like, I'm here to take every title. He goes, I can be a nice guy, I can be a commentator, I can be your friend, mentor. He's like, I'm not going to be that here. He's like, I am here to hurt people. And I'm like, when you look at it, you're like, yes, I believe you.
The fact that he was not like they should have had Samoa Joe win the WWE title off AJ Styles in 2018.
Agreed.
That was a crime that they didn't do that. And I think the only reason they did it is because they had just announced before that match that for 2K19, I believe the game was, that AJ Styles was the cover superstar.
Every time.
They didn't want him losing.
Yeah, it goes back to, like, I love the fact that
it was his knees. The company was always worried about his knees giving out again.
And the crazy part is, I watched him like recently just go in, like he had a match just a couple weeks, last week, and he's looking better than he ever has.
I was gonna say, just this past week on
lost
AEW, he had a match.
Oh, and then now, so now we're done with the male side, and now the female side. I don't think anybody's gonna know who I like here because I've been watching a lot of Japanese wrestling, and it's the newer ones, and I am enamored with Maki Ito. Like, I love the fact that she's like, the whole storyline is she was a fired idol who like was not good enough for her idol singing group, so she got into wrestling. And she's just brutal, and she's cursing all the time. Like, her one thing that she comes into the ring with, hello, motherfuckers, all the time. And she said she's like the queen of simps on Twitter and all this. She went back and forth with Jim Cornette for a moment. And it's just like, I'm loving the Japanese, like, indie scene so hardcore these days because there's just, like, you get everything. And if, like, you love that kind of entertainment, she's your girl.
It's a funny thing. The Japanese really love a lot of different sports entertainment stuff that's just not done here yet.
Maki Ito all the way. Ito respect army.
Baseball.
Beautiful.
They love their professional wrestlers. Plus, they still make the best wrestling games. All Japan Pro Wrestling and Fire Pro Wrestling.
Oh, Fire Pro Wrestling World.
Not to mention the fact that you can actually see death matches in Japan. Like, if you want to watch, like, specifically look up everything in Japan that Mick Foley and Terry Funk did. It is amazing how both of them are still alive.
And if you're going to go with Mick Foley and Terry Funk, you still have to go with Atsushi Onita. Anything Onita's ever done, like John Moxley, you can tell that he is in love with Onita to the point that he uses Wild Thing to come out to the ring like Atsushi Onita's always used. But their barbed wire matches with him, oh my God.
All right, Padawannabe.
Okay. Well, early favorites, definitely Jake the Snake and Randy the Macho Man Savage. Their gimmicks were just nothing, still really nothing like it, you know? And even with Hogan and Macho Man kind of having a similar sound. I just like Macho Man. His finishing move, stands up on the top ropes, puts his arm out, and, however far he has to jump away, he nailed that move, early on. And there wasn't really a whole lot of women wrestlers. I really just recognize Elizabeth really being the memorable one from those early years. But then, more recently, I love Chyna. I thought she was the ultimate female wrestler because it's like, I don't know her entire story. I don't know how she worked out, if she was a true athlete muscularly or not, and all that stuff. But with her voice and the way she carried herself, she was feminine in a masculine world, and I appreciated that a lot. And, Stacy Keibler, yes, legs for days and heels, but I'm sorry, but that's all that girl had. I had an ex-girlfriend, kind of looked like her. It's like, I'm done with that. I had 100% Stratusfaction. Trish Stratus, that was my girl. I liked Lita, good wrestler. Couldn't really go with the emo, goth, metal, rocker, cargo pants thing. So Trish was my girl. And then after that, I haven't really, the women wrestling's really changed a lot. I still like having that feminine wrestler without being a girl kind of thing, So, but yeah, those would be my women then. And as far as that era for men, love The Rock, love John Cena, because those guys talk a good microphone. They deliver, they evolved. I saw their evolution over the years, and Rock's just pure Hollywood. He turned pure Hollywood. He got so good at his delivering, and Mick Foley and a lot of these good guys back in the day, they had really good microphone presence. And I appreciate all of that, but I would say male ring favorite would be like a Rey Mysterio or a RVD, just because unfortunately they weren't the biggest guys, but they had so many athletic moves and just really could get the crowd behind them, and Rob Van Dam, to me, almost like the only thing I didn't 100% like about him, and this isn't even a knock on his character or his athleticism, is everything he did in the ring looked so practiced and controlled. And I was like, well, how big can this guy go? How far can he jump? What can he do? Because even when he was doing, a 5-star or, just jumping over and doing a belly press on a guy or outside the ring on the table, he just looked so in control of his movements. And it was like, it almost lulled you into kind of a hip, like, this is almost boring, but it's not. He was just so precise, and a lot of other people weren't like that. And I can't say that's a bad thing, but I had to, like Rey Mysterio, they had to be very practiced guys to do what they did, because I have seen a lot of other wrestlers get out of control on accident. I did see the match when Brock Lesnar tried the freaking shooting star. It's like, what is he doing? Nobody knew what he was doing. And I was like, why is he going up there? And he does the move. And I'm like, why did he even think he could do that? It's just some of these things. But those wrestlers in particular that I mentioned really just kind of left a mark on me, because it was like, they had a little bit, regardless of their popularity and fame, they were all at a certain level that nobody else had. Nobody talked as good as The Rock and Stone Cold and Mick Foley and these guys, and they didn't even have people writing for them, so it was nice to see. Yes, I like guys and women for their mouth and their athletics, and their antics. And it was just, and their personality. It got so good there, and it was like that from the beginning. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
The presence.
Yeah, and that's the thing you have to have in the wrestling business. You have to have a presence about you, because if you don't have a presence about you, you're not going to succeed.
We went over the question before, but it is called sports entertainment for a reason. They have camera segments, so you have to perform. It's not like an after game interview.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Well, let's see. Sorry.
Now, there's another thing about wrestling now. A lot of it is heavily scripted, where there was a time where the guys would come up with their own promos.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's almost like they had an outline. Here's the outline. Have fun.
Oh, I love that. That's what I've been hearing. Like, I know people like, of course, I'm an AEW stan. I'll say it right now. Going to throw that out there no matter what. I know some people have their problems with it, but I've heard from everybody in the back that that's what they're giving them. It's like, here's an outline. You put everything together. And I've seen some of like the greatest promos. Like Eddie Kingston is magic when it comes to a promo.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention the day that CM Punk and MJF went one-on-one on the mic.
For Oh, so good.
That was mwah, calling each other like a less famous Miz, or saying CM Punk should be out there preaching hustle, loyalty, and respect, mentioning Triple H.
He didn't Max at one point say he wanted to like put down his dog. He said he was going to put down Larry or something like that in the like one of the promos against Punk.
I think you're right. I think I remember hearing something about that because everyone was all aghast.
Dude, MJF could never like I'll say right now, if you have the time, he can never surprise me with how far he'll go for just keeping kayfabe. There's a documentary that he did online with like I guess it was like Kenny Johnson or like one of those guys who does the independent documentaries, and this was before AEW. But the whole thing turned out like he was fooling the interviewer to like he was a regular guy for half the interview, and then it turns in the middle of it that it's like it was all a put on. So he was fucking with him the whole time. It's magic.
And there's another instance with MJF where he appears on Stone Cold's podcast before he started the Broken Skull sessions. Dude. And actually gets into a argument with Stone Cold, and of course they make it seem like Stone Cold had enough and jumped him, and MJF got out of there. But it was just your classic MJF being like, "I'm better than you were in your heyday, Austin," and Austin's like, "What? What?" That sort of stuff.
That man is like I wish I could find the clip right now. And then this is not MJF, this is Austin. I was watching, and it's one of these silly guys in the independents I like named RJ City. He does this whole thing called coffee in his underwear, where he'll make coffee, have a guest. He has like Eddie Kingston on once, but he was in Austin's place in his underwear, and he's like, "Yep, just making some coffee." He goes, "I see you're a flannel guy," and he goes, "Yeah." Steve puts his hand on his back. He goes, "We're not doing coffee in our underwear. You can leave." He's like, "Don't touch my beer." He's like, "Oh, I will touch your beer." He's like, "Have a great one day." And he just pats him on the back. He's like, "I'll see you later, sir." So good. Austin is the man to this day when it comes to just bringing a crowd in.
Oh yes. Even this past WrestleMania, his match against Kevin Owens, that was the thing that I personally was most excited to see. And it honestly, Steve Austin showed his age and his ring rust, but even that aside, that match did not disappoint to me.
Well, he was a brawler too, and like at the end of it, I mean, he started as super technical, like ringmaster, even stuff in WCW. He was a super technical wrestler, but in his heyday, he was a brawler. So when you're watching it, it's like, of course, ring rust will get anybody, but he's throwing punches. He's taking like the bumps on the concrete. Of course, he drinks a million beers, and it's the best thing ever. When you watch it, you're like, it doesn't feel like it was 20 years ago. Like that's still insane.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Loki, you've got to go. Is there anything that you'd like to plug before you leave?
I've still got 10 minutes.
All right.
I was just letting you guys know I've still got 10 minutes.
I've been hearing a lot of talk about favorites of American, and we even got a little bit of that anime setting sun wrestling in here. Any love for the Mexican wrestling?
Oh yeah, Triple A, baby.
Of course.
Rey Mysterio, man.
The first time I ever saw Rey, and I was lucky because I got to see Rey, and then I got to see Eddie Guerrero, was at Bash at the Beach. It's the first time I ever got to see them wrestle live. And absolutely, dude. I immediately was like, Rey Mysterio is a fucking wizard. Yep. And I hated when they took the mask off in WCW. I was so happy, so happy they brought that back when he transferred over to WWE. Absolute insane little wizard. I mean, he is a small guy, and when you see the shit he does, it's absolutely insane. The amount of ring work he does, yes. The insane flips, the Hurricane Ranas, the splashes, all the shit he does that you're just like, you've never seen anything like it, and it almost harkens back to like the Superfly Jimmy Snuka era in the 80s when Superfly was going up to the top rope and doing the long flying splashes, and you know, you that kind of disappeared, and then Mexican wrestling came in, the luchadors came in, and it's like, holy shit, this is like a resurgence of these high flyers from the 80s, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels and all this cool stuff that you had back in the day. Yeah, the luchadors absolutely kick ass. Love it.
And if we're gonna go with that and all that, I just got to say I've got to throw out a Cero Miedo for my man Pentagon Jr. All the time, one of the most brutal luchadors of all time. Just watching him in Lucha Underground, like when he would do all the crazy shit that you know a luchador can do, but then he'd hit you with that falling arm breaker. And I'm just like, to this day, I don't know how anybody didn't snap their arm with how good he did it.
Very true. And when it comes to luchador wrestling, I used to watch Univision when their wrestling programs were on, just so I could watch it.
So good.
Didn't understand a word, but you can watch it.
You don't have to understand what's being said. You know what's going on by watching what's in the ring.
Yep.
And speaking of Mexican wrestling, we cannot talk about Mexican wrestling without talking about Eddie Guerrero. He was amazing. He was just cool.
Yep, another ring tactician.
All day long.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make it brief. As far as my favorite wrestler, it shouldn't be any surprise to a certain someone on the panel that my favorite wrestler is Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah, the Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, space is his place, the sky is the limit. Ooh, yeah. Now, as far as my favorite female wrestler, she's actually new to the scene, but some people have been following her for years, and that's Dr. Britt Baker, DMD.
Nice.
What does DMD mean?
Doctor of Medical Dentistry, since she's an actual dentist.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, yes.
Unless you can help out with the teeth after some of them get knocked out on some.
Her and the funniest thing is her and Danhausen recently with the whole Danhausen and his teeth and pretending like he's her hookup now is the funniest thing I've seen on Twitter. He's like, just talking with her? What are you talking about?
And the thing is, you look at her body of work, especially in AEW, willing to go into hardcore matches, put her body on the line. Her match with Thunder Rosa in the cage for the title. Man, those two women, they tore it up.
Oh, yeah. It was beauty. And it was like the fact, like, did you see when Aubrey went to go for counting the three and they had to get the tacks out of the way? Because she was like almost smacking the tack.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, it was brutal and beautiful.
Yep.
And then she also had her blood from the stone moment when she friggin' that t-shirt with it dripping down her face. Dude, love that.
Uh-huh. She loves the business, and you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so real quick, I'm going to ask this next question. Favorite tag teams, male or female?
Oh, you didn't know? You better call somebody.
That's
New
not
Age
quite how
Outlaws
it went.
all day.
That's not quite how it went there, Paul. Here, I'll correct it for you.
I know.
Oh, you didn't know? You'll ask me to call somebody. There we go.
New Age Outlaws every day, all day. They were the team that found the perfect combination of charisma with the crowd. You know, the catchphrase, the whole "ladies and gentlemen," that stuff. And yet, when it came to the ring, they could go also. And they also helped. Not only were they great in their own right, but when it came time for the teams after them to come along, like the Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, they helped elevate their status too.
Oh, yes.
Damn right.
Oh, man. I had completely forgotten about every single one of those guys. Lord. All I'm going to say is tables, ladders, and chairs, and call it good.
Yep.
Call it good.
Yeah, because I mean, with that, you can select the Hardys, you can select Edge and Christian, or the Dudley Boys, and God.
Yep.
All right, Resolute Germ.
Say some of the best tag teams, depending on what you want. Technical wrestling, no, not so much. The Bushwhackers, back in the day, couldn't go for shit in the ring, but damn, they were entertaining.
Yep.
They're perfect
That
for the
they were.
80s to rap into children. And as far as modern, Bailey and Sasha Banks were a great tag team. They could have legitimized the female tag division if they just gave them those titles and let them go for a year.
Mhm.
Now it's a joke.
Mm-hmm.
So they just completely flushed that. They had the
Yeah.
perfect tag team to do it.
All right, Loki.
Because-
I've
Go ahead,
got
Paul.
one thing to say. Yeah, what a rush! Hawking Animal of Demolition, two evil, maniacal, scary ass football spike wearing pads, sons of bitches, and it is absolutely
Wait, hold on.
horrible.
Demolition was Axe and Smash. That's the Road Warriors you're talking about.
Yeah, Road Warriors. What did I say?
You said Demolition.
Oh yeah, no, Road Warriors. You know, Hawk and Animal. Did I
you
say
go.
Hawk and Animal of Demolition? Did I?
Yes.
You did say
Okay.
fucking animal, so you did.
Hawk
you,
and
you're fine.
Animal. Hawk and Animal. Yeah, the Road Warriors. Hawk and Animal.
You said Hawk and Animal. I knew who you were talking about.
Yeah, Sam.
Hearing that, dude, whether it was WCW, whether it was WWF, when you heard that, it was like, holy shit, these guys are coming down to the ring. They're going to take care of business. They're going to kick ass. They're going to take names. The only team that, like, more modern team I probably would like as much is the Outsiders. But, and that's not even a modern team anymore. You're talking
But still.
90s. But, yeah, dude, seeing that as a kid, seeing them as a kid, absolutely insane. But I gotta go, guys. Thank you so very much, brother, for having me on. It's been an absolute bliss. Talking about shit I haven't talked about in years. Thinking about stuff, those little things, you know, when you start talking about what Taker did here, what Piper did here, what happened with Macho Man, Hacksaw Jim Duggan hitting himself in the head with a 2x4. Oh, boonk, and just dude, the memories, absolutely positively wonderful time, dude. Thank you so very much for inviting me.
Thank
Y'all have
you
a
for
great
coming
night.
on, brother. Oh,
Thank
real
you.
Take
quick,
care, Loki.
Loki. On May 14th, I'm having a collector's stream. I would love to have you back.
Oh, hell yeah, just let me know what you're doing. Yeah,
All right.
I'll be there.
All right, brother.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
Stone Loki.
Take care, guys. Later.
Brother.
See ya.
All right.
Yes.
Laughing
Well,
Man.
Oh yes. Well, I love Hawk and Animal. You can't go wrong with them. But I remember the Demolition, Axe, Smash, and Crush. That was good. But if I was going to go just a little newer, I would have to go with any of the teams that were involved in any of the original tables, ladders, and chairs matches. Just interchange any of them. They were all great. They all had that ring presence. They all had the ability to take a hit and to deliver the hit. And they were pretty good tacticians. They all knew their stuff pretty well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Although I must say, seeing the Dudley Boys perform their finishers on some people, and he just gives that blank crazy man look.
Oh, no. Especially the one he did to Mae Young.
Oh,
Yes.
so good. So good.
Let me see if I can find that clip.
May the hand rest in peace.
Hey, wait. We can't say the hand resting in peace because I will say right now, somebody killed me on Twitter. With the Jackass match that happened recently when they brought that giant hand out, like from the movie, and it smacked over Sami Zayn, somebody said it's good that Mark Henry's still making multi-generational talent.
Oh man.
Oh, that's good.
All right, I have it right here.
Okay.
Nice.
Oops.
Love that picture
All right.
every time.
Here it is.
How?
Every time.
But you know, let's give Mae Young credit.
Yep.
For a woman in her advanced age, she was willing to take that bump.
Yeah. And you saw her squeezing Bubba's hand. That was like their code saying, I'm
Mhm.
okay.
Biggie.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. So good.
Yes.
Okay, Baron.
Well, I'm going to have to be repetitive. It's the Road Warriors. I mean, again, AWA, hometown boys here going out causing all that trouble there. And, again, they're the ones that you constantly saw all the time around here. So it's like you naturally gravitate to, you have to sit back and say nepotism. It's, you gravitate towards your hometown boys. You love them so much. And they were characters. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they took that Mad Max theme and they ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they did. And it also
It's
helped
something
that they
where-
were very athletic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at first you can sit back and go, they're just ripping off of Mad Max, but it's like, no, they did far more than that. I mean, it's just like, then you start to actually sit back and watch. It's like, oh, no, this is, okay. I take back what I said. I'm sorry. Don't hurt me, please. But I have to actually, my favorite tag team is whoever it was in the beginning of the movie Highlander at a combined weight of 600. And
Oh, wasn't that the Fabulous Freebirds in that one?
yes, it was.
It was Michael
Absolutely
Hayes.
right. Yeah. Yes.
Him and Terry Gordy.
For women,
who was-
again, it's hard for me because I never really watched women's wrestling. Maybe I should have. I mean, hips and thighs and other parts of the body is jiggling all around. But unfortunately, I don't have anything when it comes around for females. So you can
That's fine.
chide me later.
All right,
Nice one.
let me pick the
I'll leave
brains
now.
here. Who was Shawn Michaels' tag team partner? I can see him, but I can't
Marty
remember
Oh, was
Jannetty.
it Jannetty?
Marty Jannetty.
Marty Jannetty, yes. The Rockers. Yes. Oh,
The man
never
who's always
very
every
mistreated.
tag team, they always say, who's the Jannetty?
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Hey, still good.
All right, Padawannabe.
Well, yeah, like the guys were saying, there's not a whole lot of women tag teams. But I mean, we all liked Hardy Boys and Dudley Boys, and just there were so many good tag teams, and I just have never forgotten the British Bulldogs.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a name I
Davey
haven't heard in
Boy
a while.
Smith and the Dynamite Kid and their little dog Matilda.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things. It's like, it's in the heart, it's in the mind, it's there. I remember it as a kid, and
Hell yeah.
Yes.
that's just that thing for me right there. Just for whatever reason it was, they weren't too flashy, weren't too big, but the snap suplex and Mean Gene Okerlund. Oh, there he goes with the move again. Nobody else in wrestling history can do it like this man. And just guys, that's
So good.
those two for me is the nostalgia of wrestling. That's what really takes me back. Hulk Hogan and all these guys. Yeah, everybody knows these names, but those guys, for whatever reason, little bit different connection, and I don't even know why. Maybe it's just the dog.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that
But
at all.
nothing, and like I said, you can't put nothing on any. Edge and Christian were a great tag team. Hardy Boys revolutionized what can be done in a ring with two people, and the Dudley Boys, and You know, just all these guys, even the guys who didn't have real hold tag teams. You know, Mick Foley and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and a lot of these guys were in a lot of tag teams and just never really had a team. You know, and you guys just mentioned that team before, the Rockers, and I was like, oh yeah, Pan Am Connection days, Can-Am Connection. You know, so so it just really takes me back. It's like, wow, man, I remember that, and those are the guys that make me remember and remember all the time. You know, so it just
brother.
I definitely have to say the British Bulldogs for me just holds that special place in my memory.
Absolutely.
I'd like to
I
add-
myself, I've got to get going here in just a moment, so I'm gonna drop the last ones real quick and just buzz through them, if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's perfectly fine. Let me go ahead and bring them up here real quick.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and split about the same time that Brandon does too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go
Getting
ahead and
mighty suspicious here. I think we have a tag team going on here.
already got
Okay.
Is there a match you guys going for?
All
favorite
right.
factions.
As far as faction, DX is great. NWO and all of its iterations was great. Heart Foundation was great. As far as best match, my favorite match is the 60-minute minimum match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. That Shawn Michaels won his first world title on.
Good match.
Worst match, it has to be when Bret Hart lost to Shawn Michaels because of the arrogance of one Mr. McMahon. And as far as tragedies, the Harts and everybody associated with them, that is just one sad tragic tale after another. You know, losing Owen the way they did, losing Davey Boy, Jim. Is Jim the Anvil Neidhart still alive? I thought he passed away too.
No, he
No, he
passed
passed away.
away.
Yeah, almost everybody except for
Brett.
Bret Hart is gone.
Mhm.
And it's heartbreaking all the different ways that they went. Then as far as the organizations, I have to go with traditional WWF 80s and 90s, and I have to go with the WCW during the NWO times when they were giving the WWF troubles. They were an okay organization prior to that, prior to Ted Turner buying them, but after he bought them and got the whole idea for the NWO going, that took them. It really pushed the bounds and it pushed the limits as far as what professional wrestling on television can be and how much fun it could be. And then, of course, selling out stadiums most of the time, except if you believe Triple H when they took the Tank over and like, they're not sold out, they're giving away free tickets, let us in there, let's see this.
Everybody papers, man. Come on.
Yeah,
I will admit,
DX.
the one
As far
show
as WWF
did
DX is it.
in Washington, it was a complete giveaway.
Yeah, so that's it. And my love for wrestling still exists, even though I don't watch it. But you know what? I did do a quick lookup of New Japan Pro Wrestling. They have a YouTube channel. So guess what I'm going to check out? Some All Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Nice, good call.
All right,
It's
guys,
worth
you
it.
take care.
Check that out,
Thanks
too.
for having
Thank you,
me here,
Brandon.
Mike, and great to meet y'all. And have a good night. And Master Paul and Baron, you take care.
You
And
too,
real
man.
quick,
Hey, brother.
I'm going to extend the invitation for the collector stream on May 14th if you're available.
I don't have much in the way of collectibles at the moment, so I would not be the best one for that.
Not even your
But-
anime DVDs and Blu-rays?
I don't have very much. I had to get rid of my game collection. I've been stripped down on my DVD collection. I don't have a lot right now, and I don't have a lot of room for it because I'm not in my own place. But I might pop on and show two things that I do have that I am really proud of. So, yeah,
Okay.
throw me the link. And
Random
I'll pop with you.
random question, Brandon. Is one of those
Yes.
things something that goes pew pew?
Well, I do have one of them that I like, yeah, that I do have, and of course, it's a nice piece. But in my collection, I do have a 4K movie I'm proud of. I have a toy that I built when I was 10 that I'm proud of, and let's see, That's about it. That's
All
about
right.
the extent of what I've got that I would show.
Well, it doesn't have to be a large collection. It could be any type of collection because you're a collector.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, throw me the link and I'll pop on and show you what I got.
Talk
Not a
about
problem,
the joy
bro.
when you were doing it.
All right,
And now
guys, you
having
take
you back.
care. Have a great night and have fun. Have fun throwing down. Oh yeah! And what you gonna do, brother, when Hulkamania runs wild on you?
I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take care of Hogan 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna be the new champion. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll see you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Take
Have a
care,
good night, brother.
Brandon.
Good meeting you.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and head out too, but I'll go ahead and answer those questions for me. So can you remind me real quick what those are,
Yeah.
Pacific?
Yeah, I certainly can, Paul. 1 second. All right. So one of the questions was favorite tag match.
Favorite tag match? Honestly, I don't have one.
Okay.
Tag matches to me are kind of one and the same. Even though I do love the New Age Outlaws, they just kind of blend together at some point to me.
All right.
Favorite faction? Ooh, man, that's a tough one because you know what? I'm gonna say it's a tie. It is a tie between DX, specifically the original, after Shawn retired, DX, the one that had Triple H, Chyna, the Outlaws, and X-Pac. I'm going to say it's a tie between them and the Bloodline because I like what currently Roman Reigns is doing with the Usos and Paul Heyman. I think they need to add one more person in there, though, just to take it to the next level.
Okay.
Personally, if Samoa Joe had stayed in WWE, I'd say add him in.
All right.
But okay, so let's see. Favorite singles match? This one's going to be somewhat of an obscure one, but it's the very first Inferno match. Actually, no, it's a tie between the very first Inferno match between Undertaker and Kane and Undertaker versus Mankind Hell in a Cell. Favorite wrestling promotion? I only watch WWE right now, so that's kind of my answer by default.
Okay.
And the tragedy that sticks out in my mind the most, well, it was a tragedy at the time because it would be easy for me to say things like Eddie and Benoit and things like that, but I wasn't watching for that. So a tragedy that I actually saw was Roman Reigns having to relinquish the Universal title due to his leukemia announcement. Though thankfully he has gone into remission from that and he's healthy now. At the time, that was a gut punch.
Yeah. And another question.
And if I had
Face.
a wrestling promo, would I be face or heel? Honestly, I would just be myself and let the crowd judge me for who they think I am.
You're a heel. No.
Cut a promo.
Yes.
Cut a promo as that. You know what? Timeout. I need something for this promo. I'll be right. It's funny you asked me to cut a promo, Pacific, because there's actually something coming up that I'm going to be involved in soon that is actually worthy of a promo. So let me first show you guys this. And I want someone to clip this. You see, this right here is a lightsaber, an elegant weapon for a more civilized age, not as clumsy or random as a blaster. And this May 1st or 2nd, I don't know which day it is yet, at the Nashville ICCC convention, the Echo Base Network meetup, I am going to be engaging in lightsaber combat with Mexican Iron Man.
Oh.
And you know what? I don't even know why we're fighting anymore. Something to do with pasta being better than tacos, something to do with yellow lightsabers being ugly. But whatever, I am going to beat Mexican Iron Man one way or another. And that's the bottom line, because Master Paul said so.
Boom.
You've heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. May 1st or 2nd, Master Paul versus Mexican Iron Man. Will
This is gonna
Darth
be a
Poopy prevail?
This is going to be a wonderful match. There's no chance that this is going to be a boring thing. Both men are masters of the lightsaber. Who will prevail? Will it be the snarky young man there, or will it be the wise Jedi master in the form of Mexican Iron Man?
He's not a Jedi Master. He's Darth Poopy, or as he prefers to be called, Darth Poppy.
The dark side Sith. We'll see if the light side or the dark side will prevail. Don't you dare miss this one, or you will be visited by Darth Poopy himself. You do not want that.
Please, someone clip everything and send that to me so that I can upload it and send it to Mexican Iron Man.
You fight for honor and bragging rights.
Okay, honor and bragging rights. But yeah, that's gonna be it. And by the way, don't worry. If I don't stream this fight myself, I know someone's going to. So you will see this fight as it happens.
So I have one question. Are you going to send Mexican Iron Man back to the rabbit chicken farm ashamed and alone? Or
yes, I am.
My question to you, Mexican Iron Man, if you see this, are you going to tell Master Paul that you are the be-all, end-all of Jedi Masters and that you're going to lay the smackdown on his candy ass?
I tell you what, Mike, there's no chance that Mexican Iron Man is not going to say something before this fight. He's going to let us know exactly what he thinks of that young upstart down there. And I think this is going to be the fight of the century, the fight of the millennium. So, Master Paul versus Darth Poopy, this will be something. I am waiting with bated breath, Mike. I am waiting with bated breath to hear what Darth Poopy has to say about this.
Well, I'm going to tell you this right here, right now. Darth Poopy, you are the best lightsaber wielder I've ever seen, and you're going to take Master Paul down.
Hey, Pacific, remember, I have this, and I can come for that title anytime I want to, because I know I can beat Mexican Iron Man in a lightsaber fight, and I know for sure I can beat you in a lightsaber fight.
Well, Mike, as a commentator, you're stepping over the line. You're stepping over the line and going to opinions.
Which title do you want, Paul?
All of them.
I have 6 of them here.
All of them.
You're stepping over the line, Mike. We're commentators. We're not supposed to take sides. But being that you took sides, I will take sides with Darth Poopy himself. I know that he will go out there and he will cream Master Paul's butt in there. So since we're choosing sides on all this, even in our commentary booths here, I guess we're throwing caution to the wind. Caution to the wind.
That's right, Mexican Iron Man. You better not let us down.
Someone
you better win this battle.
All of this. Please clip all of this and send it to me and send it to Mexican Iron Man.
If somebody doesn't lose an arm, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Same.
I'm going to go ahead and just bow out now before I.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
And I'll clip all this tomorrow and I'll upload it.
I
all
want
right.
a copy of this myself.
All right, I'll see you guys later. Okay.
Take care, Master Paul.
All right, thank you for coming on, Paul. Really appreciate it, brother.
Oh, no problem, man. See you on Tuesday Night Trek.
All right, brother.
Hey, Mike.
Accept the idea that there's no.
I do got to roll in a moment to cook my own dinner. Can I get a lightning round like that as well?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, do you want me to cut the promo, or do you want to give me any of the questions?
Well, for you, I already know the answer as far as your wrestling persona. I've known you for a long time, my friend. I already know.
Okay, so let's do this. Now, of course, they don't know me that well, but they'll probably get this from how we go. You step across the ring from me, I don't care about titles. I want to prove that monsters do exist. And the first thing I'm going to do is when I get these two hands and hook around your neck and you're gasping with every bated breath for me to let go until you drop, that will not happen. And in the end, I'll raise the title over my head, but you can take your medal, you can take your adulation. I just want to prove that I'm better. Nighty-night.
What a
Stick
sweet
to the
gentleman.
throat means death.
I learned a long time ago when you're doing evil, you don't have to raise your voice. People will listen. Okay, so now we go favorite wrestling promotion?
Yeah.
AEW. I'm going to say it right now. The reason it's competition finally and more work is better for every wrestler. And they're finally kicking at the heels that nobody's done since WCW. Like, I mean, I love TNA. I love ROH. I love all the ones who are alternative, New Japan. But I want somebody who's kicking at Vince's heels because now they can finally get out of the doldrums they've been in. Like, other than, like, Roman Reigns. And I was a big Bray Wyatt fan. So when Bray Wyatt was still around, like, you were giving me something there, but there's a lot that seems very formulaic. So it's like, I want somebody to kick him in the ass so they can make better shit again.
All right. Next question.
Oh, this is a good one. TLC3. TLC3 is still a classic in my opinion. And there's a lot of like, I mean, I can even go with newer ones. Like, I'll put it right out now. Briscoes versus FTR was fantastic on Saturday.
That was beautiful.
And they're hometown boys for me. Because I'm from Delaware, and like Delaware might as well be a town because it's so fucking small. But Sandy Fork, Delaware, Jay and Mark Briscoe, amazing. And FTR is probably the best tag team running today. If you actually look at the amount of work they've done in the past week alone.
All right.
Bullet Club. Bullet Club all the way.
Life. But before it was Bullet Club, there was
NWO. It's totally derivative. I love Now I love the NWO until we got into 400 subsets of the NWO.
Yeah.
When they started going, I'm part of the tiny world order, and you're like, what the fuck are we doing anymore? It's just NWO black, white, silver, green, gray. The original NWO.
Nice.
Oh, this is good. It was the WWE Summer of Punk. Because I think that was really stirring shit up.
You know, I'm going to add something to that. Because it wasn't in the summer of Punk, but it was in the winter of Punk. Being at the Norfolk Scope for Monday Night Raw with you, Rasheen, and Ashley. That was a blast.
Oh, fantastic. That was gold. I still like it. It's so funny. Like, I remember like Norfolk was it's so funny that I can get to, I've been to AEW twice now because it's literally 5 minutes away from my house. Those trips to Norfolk were worth it every time for the wrestling shows we saw there.
Yeah, they were.
So gold.
All right. And
you're gonna love this because I had to say this. I was thinking about this, and it's the best part about it. I was in the crowd, and of course, this was the same one that had was Shawn Michaels overselling the shit out of Hulk Hogan, which I left midway through because I didn't want to get caught in traffic in Washington D.C.
I don't blame you there.
But at the beginning of that show, I was there for Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio custody of Dominic ladder match. And the fact that it's just like people always want to go with the goofy part of it, but it's still Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero in a ladder match. And it was epic. It's like that man, like I lost way too soon, especially after he had finally cleaned himself up.
Yeah, it was a damn shame.
Agreed.
All right, brother. I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
And it's always nice to talk wrestling with you. And like I've extended the invitation to Loki and Brandon and Paul, I want to extend the invitation to you for the May 14th stream where we're going to be talking about our collectors.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'll make the time and we'll do it.
All right.
I'll talk to you later. It was nice hanging out with all y'all for I'm sure we've hung out before in like other ways, but a nice sat down. It was nice to hang out with all y'all.
Nice meeting you face to face.
See you next time.
Exactly. Y'all have a great one. Mike, keep kicking ass.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, my ass he's kicking.
Oh, by the way, tell Josh hello from me.
Oh, believe me, you saw him walking back and forth in his Naruto shirt, so he's still around. I'll tell him you said what's up.
All right.
Later, y'all.
Take care, brother. All right. And then it became a fatal four-way match. Who's going to win?
Not me.
All right. So let me do something here real quick, and then I will continue asking the questions.
No question. This is where I start falling apart. That's an old timer.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that, Baron. So,
But I do have a question to ask later on here.
Okay, go ahead, shoot.
Or do you want me to do it now? I don't want to derail. What was your most memorable switching sides of? In other words, a bad guy turning into a good guy, or a good guy going to a bad guy? Because the one that I remember the most, the biggest of, was Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, talk about the guy who had action figures for G.I. Joe and all that, but when he went to from being a good guy to the bad guy, what a shock that was, because here he was Mr. America, and now he was all anti-America. And I remember he was saying, some kid came up to him, and somebody came up to him for autograph. They go, "Man, I hated you." He goes, "Good, that's what I was wanting."
Gosh.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that stands out for me.
I mean, that
a
was
lot
happening.
of the times they telegraph stuff like that, but being that young, you never see Sergeant Slaughter coming.
No, and that was happening during the first Gulf War.
Right. That's
So
when they wanted to. Mm-hmm.
So for Sergeant Slaughter to side with the Iron Sheik, that was something back in the day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wasn't exactly following wrestling fully at that time, but boy, that impact was, everywhere. Everyone's going, "Did you hear what Sergeant Slaughter did? Do you hear what he did?" Yep. People you never even knew what wrestling was about.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, like you're saying, Hulk Hogan went bad guy. We went to Hollywood Hogan, and all that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. That is one of the biggest impacts in wrestling, especially in the 90s, where both WCW and WWF were struggling for ratings because it was too kid friendly. One of the big draws for it for me as a kid in the 80s was that these guys were like superheroes in the ring.
Yeah,
and then
it's like a live action cartoon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the product starts becoming stale, and then you hear about what Hogan did at Bash at the Beach, and they even showed that moment on TBS during WCW Saturday Night. It's like, oh my gosh. And Hogan actually getting into that heel persona. At first he was struggling to do it, and then he just managed to find it, and people at first loved to boo him, but then they started cheering him again. The NWO was selling t-shirts, tank tops, you name it. I mean, you got to give Hogan credit. Whether you love him or hate him, he helped the wrestling industry in a big way.
He did.
All right.
Yeah. He basically made it mainstream.
Yeah. So, question for all of you who are still here and anyone in the chat is favorite faction?
Personally,
None
I
here.
feel Ministry of Darkness. Especially after they absorbed the Brood.
Mm-hmm.
Up until they went to the corporate ministry, that had real potential. Is DX and the Nation of Domination falling off by that point, and then you just get the evil characters, whatnot, and around the beginning of that is when they had the Undertaker make a couple TV appearances. I think it is like in Poltergeist was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
That Poltergeist show. At the beginning, so much potential. Looked like it'd go great. And then they hit us with when they combined the corporation and the Ministry of Darkness, and everything just fell apart. And then eventually we got Al Snow versus the Big Boss Man in a quote-unquote dog pound match.
That should have never been put on TV.
Whoever came up with that idea should have been buried alive.
Buried alive.
Well. Somebody wants a little Wrath of Khan. I'll give you a little Wrath of Khan here. Let me just find the clip.
I shall leave you as you left me, as you left her, marooned for all eternity in the center of a dead planet. Buried alive, buried alive.
Yes. Well, Baron, AWA, or
AWA.
WWF as far as factions, or WCW?
I don't really know. I mean, factions started started going, but like the mid '80s or so, and I was kind of out of wrestling about that time. I was chasing girls, and they were doing a good job of staying ahead of me. So I was never really had much when it came to factions. I mean, I know of the NWO stuff like that, but that's like I said, that starts getting past the old guy in me. I'm sorry to say.
And not even stuff like the Fabulous Freebirds or stuff
Well,
like that? Or the Legion of Doom?
No, I mean, not really, honestly, because I just liked the individuals that you had out there. Nord the Barbarian, all those guys. It just didn't get into factions, I suppose. As factions started coming about, it's kind of when I was fading out, you might say.
Okay. And how about you, Padawannabe?
Yeah, that's a tough one for me. I really, just coming from the old WWF history, the factions to me would be more WWF, WCW, and that kind of thing. So I would have to say, from my perspective, I would say WWF, because I looked at the other companies as factions.
Mm-hmm.
I missed the beginning of NWO and Degeneration X and those things. So I still looked at it as the different corporations coming in as the different groups. I didn't look at it, I knew NWO as a group, but I didn't really understand it. I still kind of looked at it as a whole nother company invading and not just a certain faction being against somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So that one, to me, I just missed those couple years when that became a thing, But I would have to say, for me, and a WWF, because that's what raised me. They're the ones that kind of incorporated all the other companies, all the other factions, made it all work. If they say no to all those companies, nobody gets as big as they do, even WWF. Because I think the inclusion of ECW and Paul Heyman and the WCW and all that into one big corporation or conglomerate, to me, was a big culmination, because I wasn't as much of a fan. I didn't know of these other companies. So seeing WWF take such a huge spike upward And I completely recognized that it was these other companies coming in. But I also recognize that without this merger, none of these companies do what they can do. So I really looked at it more of a corporation thing. I never really got on that individual kind of team thing, even in sports. Once there's enough players on a team I respect, then I root for the team.
Mhm.
So it was kind of that thing, like I like this guy, I like to hate this guy, I don't like this guy at all, and oh, this guy's too much of a pretty boy. It was too much. I couldn't like. In wrestling, there wasn't a whole group I could like, and I liked all of them for the exact reasons they were involved. I liked, like Hollywood Hogan turning into Hollywood Hogan and changing sides. It brought him a whole entire new dynamic. And many wrestlers in that 10-year frame would go back and forth or change loyalties and things like that. And it's like, that's what drove the story. And I just loved the idea that they did give everything a chance and not just be like, nope, it's my way or the highway. Even though Vince did kind of do that, you're going to do it by my rules or you're not going to come into our corporation. But I like the idea that so much got added to WWF at that time. And it really, as popular as WWF was, all that stuff just made it more popular. I mean, wrestling was rivaling real professional sports at that time. The popularity of it was insane. Every demographic, and even at that time, you have some wrestlers that are old enough that you have the older wrestling fans, 60 plus demographic, and they're still rooting for their people. So, I mean, I can't do a faction per se, but you kind of get the gist of where I'm going.
Yeah, I totally get where you're going because, no matter what era you look at, there's always something that changes the industry either for the better or for the worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all saw what we saw, and, Vince McMahon was a good front man. As arrogant and money hungry as he was, Paul Heyman would not have accomplished what Vince McMahon did. As driven as he was, he just didn't have the few extra things that Vince did,
Yeah, like money and
whatever it may be.
All right, so my next question to you all is favorite storylines.
I'll get mine out of the way. I don't have one because basically for us it was they came out, they trash talk each other, they went into the match, and then they had the thing afterwards. That was the storyline we had. It's like two guys go in, one guy comes out, victor, or maybe it was almost was tag team. But that's what it was. We're just too busy rooting for the people we liked and the people who didn't. There wasn't really a story behind it other than just trash talking, which was fantastic.
Yeah, and that's all it needs most of the time is just two people getting in there and going at it. All right. How about you, Resolute Germ?
I'd have to go with the Mega Powers. All the way from WrestleMania 4 to 5, it just built up. You knew what was coming. Then the match wasn't perfect, but they did a hell of a job building to it. Especially because I remember watching WrestleMania 5 when I was young and crying over the Mega Power splitting up. I was only like 5 or 6 at the time, but it was just, you couldn't believe that it had come to Savage versus Hogan.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Padawannabe?
Gosh, I'm really trying to think about this. I think this is going to be another one of those nostalgia moments, and it's not necessarily a storyline, although it was just not a huge, you know, month after month thing. But the whole thing when, for whatever reason, Elizabeth and Macho Man broke up. And I recognize that there, even at a young age, that I found out there was some real life, true to life physical and personal stuff they might have had going on also. But just seeing them break up, and they got back together, broke up, got back together, broke up, but that was something I remember as a kid, because it was the first time really in wrestling at that time. I don't remember any other relationship that they actually talked about, we're together because we love each other, kind of more or less, and I think that was probably one of the first times as a child I made that connection and viewed it as that, and felt bad for her when things were going bad and, stuff like that. So memory wise, that's just one that always stuck out. And that definitely would be because I was at that impressionable age, and things like that. And Macho Man being such a big persona as he was, and Elizabeth really all the time looking like she was just along for the ride. She seemed very demure and quiet and self-contained, and she was there because Macho Man wanted to show her off, regardless of what their real personalities and real lives were like. But that's how I looked at it as a little kid. It was like, oh, he is definitely the dominant male, but there's also definitely some things going on. So I think, I can't say favorite, good, bad, or the other, but I can say that was one of the storylines that affected me. Like I'm as old as I am, and that's what I thought of. When that question came up, it's like, well, I don't know a lot of the other storylines and rivals, but I do remember that one.
And that's the thing, this is called past, present, future. You don't have to necessarily know what happened after a certain period of time. It's whatever you remember from the period of time that you watched sports entertainment or the sport or just professional wrestling all together. It's all in how you look at it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I remember that. And there was a couple of times when I can't remember if it was Elizabeth. I don't think it was necessarily her wearing sunglasses, but like she came down next to the ring with Macho Man and she had a black eye. And I don't know as a kid if it's real or not, but, and even as an adult, is that the story you're portraying or is this legitimate stuff? I don't know, So it's just, I always remember that. It was something that stuck in my mind. I just remembered thinking, oh, they love each other, but they get in altercations. And to me, in that era, 70s and 80s, I hate to say it, but what we would call domestic violence, some things were domestic violence back then, and just, kind of being raised around it and seeing that on TV and relating to it a little bit, again, like I said, it's one of those things that I won't forget. Always remember.
I mean, I wasn't watching, but I remember when the like you talk about the breakup. That was news. People were talking about that. I wasn't necessarily watching, but it's like I kind of knew enough that really, that's going on. So
I think that's what probably got me as a kid because I started hearing about it outside of wrestling, and I'm thinking, well, everybody says wrestling's fake. I'm still looking at it like you can't fake landing on a big guy, like they still get hurt. But it made me really wonder. It's like, well, how involved are these people outside of TV? you know, and does their personal life bleed into their job? I never thought of it as their job, but that's what it was for them.
And for some of them, their personal lives did lead into their professional lives with the storylines.
Mm-hmm.
One storyline that they actually brought to WWE was after Matt Hardy was first fired and then brought back. And during that whole time, he was going out with one of the women's wrestlers, Lita, and she ended up breaking up with Matt and going out with Edge, Adam Copeland. And they actually incorporated that into the storyline between Edge and Matt Hardy when they brought Matt Hardy back.
But not forget the fact that she broke up with him maybe 3 months after she started seeing Edge.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a perfect example of real life becoming art.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, moving on to my next question. What is the best singles match you've seen on TV or in person?
I have an exact example, and I'm totally willing to go first or last if you guys are ready or want to wait.
Go ahead. For me, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I've been thinking about this for a while and trying to think of what it was that I would remember. And I've only been to 2 live events. And one was just a SmackDown event. And if anybody's been to a live event, they usually don't just have the one event. Usually, if you show up early enough, you'll see some preliminary matches that they'll put on, you know, the Sunday special or something like that. It never was showcase stuff on Raw or SmackDown, but it might be on one of the late night specials, or they would show highlights of it or something like that. And I actually got to go. I didn't realize this was what it was until I looked into it a little bit more. I just remembered specifically that it was China's last match. And they didn't know it at the time, but I found out like a week or 2 later that she just wasn't going to wrestle anymore. And doing a little more poking, I find out that it was Judgment Day of 2001. So I got to go to Arco Arena in Sacramento, California. I got to go with my little brother to go see Judgment Day in 2001. And what that consisted of. As I look through what happened, I can't believe, you know, not remembering names is one thing, but as soon as I start reading this, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot what happened at this thing. Because even at the time, we're near 2000, new millennium, 2000, 2001, 2005, whatever, William Regal was around, and he was actually appointed the WWF commissioner, which was a big deal because why would Vince McMahon ever step down? But William Regal faced Rikishi, and it's just hearing all these names was so nostalgic for me. And then I remember there was a big technical fighter controversy. So this was the fight. Kurt Angle faced Chris Benoit in a 2 out of 3 falls match, and each match was a different themed match. So like the first one was a normal match, and then the second match was a submission match, and then they had a ladder match between them. And it's like, are you insane? These guys aren't in these kind of matches, but both of them were excelling so quickly, it just got insane to see what was happening, you know. And Edge and Christian come in at the end and do that. Oh, we're gonna help our guy if the one guy's not winning, you know. So there was a lot of that, you know, what was that? Rushing from the backstage to come out and beat up the guy stuff going on at that point. And I had even forgotten about this name, but Rhino was there. He actually wrestled Test and Big Show for the WWF Hardcore title. It's like, God, I can't believe I forgot about the Hardcore title. That to me is something that kind of, it wasn't there, and then it came and went, and I remember the Hardcore belt was just this scrapped up ragtag belt. It had like parts of a bunch of broken belts on it. Just seeing that, just remembering all that stuff was so great. All these people. And like I said, it was Chyna's last match. And I remember because that was a lot of time when that was at the time when her and Eddie Guerrero were kind of like, her and Triple H weren't going great. And her and Eddie Guerrero started having a thing. And then they kind of started breaking up. And during the match, Eddie Guerrero came out. And it was kind of, tension. And it was just basically he came out to congratulate Chyna on, having a good career and being a good wrestler and all that. And then I got to see, what was it? It was, this was a silly match. Triple H and Kane in a chain match where they just had chains laying around the mat. So they would wrap them up around their arms or or whip each other with them and things like that. And it's like, they were really going for those gimmicks back then. It was just so funny. And, even some of these other ones like this just really killed me seeing the names of who these guys, like it was the tag team turmoil match with this one. I don't remember exactly, but these names are great. Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn. And it was against the APA, Bradshaw and Farouk. And I was like, oh my God, how do I forget these guys? They were such big parts, even though they weren't big players. They were such big parts in the group, and the Dudley Boys were also in that match. So it was like, God, this is just such nostalgia seeing that. And it was like, I'm so happy that I got that. That was one of the live ones that I got to see, and I got to see Chris Jericho and Edge and Christian. And, the main event was Stone Cold defending the championship against Undertaker in a no-holds-barred match. So it was just like, not the best matches, but some of the best and biggest personas. And to see them live, and I've always said live events are worth going. And if you really want to experience it, get as close as you can. Once you see the size of the people in real life and see really what they're doing and the work they perform and how hard they do it, it's a whole nother level. I mean, like, I didn't get to see a whole lot of wrestling, but the SmackDown I got to see not Stone Cold, but I got to see The Rock and a lot of these other wrestlers that I hadn't seen in this live event. It's like these guys are just so massive and so practiced and so poised, and it's amazing. I've seen some football and basketball games, and it's like, these guys are so much bigger than you can even imagine, It was such a pleasure to see this live. And I've been way up in the nosebleeds. And yeah, nosebleed sections is not like being right down in there. If you can feel that guy's sweat on you, man, you're in a good spot.
Very cool indeed. So I'm going to move on to the next question here. Favorite tag match? And we've mentioned a favorite tag team of ours tonight, the Road Warriors. So, Resolute Germ or Baron or Padawannabe?
I just have to say right at the top of my head, I don't know which one, but I can't remember a bad TLC match. I mean, I almost want to say the one I can't say for positive they were involved, but I want to say it was a Dudley Boys and Hardy Boys and an Edge and Christian TLC match. It was some
Mhm.
pay-per-view, and I can't say it for sure, but if it wasn't that, they, having those type of talents in something at that time. But the TLC matches I just thought were so great because everybody was going to a different level, and so many of the wrestlers were willing to do those kind of things. Because the TLC matches, they were using 20-foot ladders, and then they would jump off into the off the ladder that's on the mat onto the announcer's desk. And
Mhm.
it's like, God, or the Hell in the Cells. Hell in the Cells were always so great too. I mean, those were unparalleled matches. And I mean, they're not tags, but well, some of them are, but those would be my favorite tag, the TLCs.
Okay.
You would love to watch them practice and how they get the moves down, because there's hours of choreographing that, especially when you're jumping like that, so you don't get yourself killed or hurt.
And they were all very aware. As much practice as you have.
Oh yeah.
You jumping off a ladder that tall. I couldn't even imagine. How do you get used to that? Oh, I'm gonna jump head first and land on my shoulder blades on this guy's sternum.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna feel it no matter what. I mean,
That's one thing I never did in the backyard as a kid. That was nope, we're not jumping off any ladders unless it's into a pool.
There you go. I mean, for me, because it's just memories when you come out. So I don't know exactly who. I'm sure people have done this many times. But you watch the tag team match out there, and the ones getting their clock ticked, and they don't even do the tag out. The guy just goes right out there, violating the rules, and it just turns into a free for all between all that's concerned. And I know that's probably happened many times. But I just remember when you're having that, it's like, hey, wait a moment, he's cheating. He shouldn't be doing that, running out there and starts wrestling, and the other guy comes out there, and then the person who was supposed to be KO'd all of a sudden jumps up and is back to life. And it's just, I remember for that type of tag team match that I remember, and I wish I could remember who it was. I don't even know who the wrestlers were. And I'm embarrassed.
That could have been any heel team.
Yeah.
At the time.
I mean, it could have been the Road Warriors for all I know,
Now that he's saying, now that he started talking, I would have to say probably the stuff that I used to see as a kid between the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation. That was probably one of the first major wrestling rivalry tag team things that I saw, that I remember going, okay, these two teams are really serious, because they wanted the titles, and it wasn't flash. They were very, kind of technical old school wrestlers, and it wasn't like, Hardy Boys jump off top ropes and slam you, and then other Dudley Boys just overpower you. And I think that was probably one of the first team rivalries that had many matches.
Yeah. Off of that, I'd say the New Day and the Usos, pretty much any pay-per-view match they've had together is top tier tag wrestling. They even made a tag team Hell in a Cell work.
Yeah, because I've watched some of the highlights of that, and I'm thinking these guys are giving the audience exactly what they paid for. They're putting on a good show. I mean, it's hard enough when you have 4 people inside that ring and you have to choreograph, how everything's going to go, who's going to come in when, and what's going to happen at this spot, that spot, and the other. But, when you have, another tag team in there, 3 tag teams in the ring, you have to know where everybody's going to be at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And you still have to entertain the crowd.
Yeah.
Right.
If a match is going on too long, they will let you know.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of a funny thing when you're watching some of the old time where you can see the crowds and you're hearing the roar of the crowds out, while they're in the match. But everybody is sitting in the audience like this around the ring.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, where's all the noise coming from? Oh, it's Kent. Okay.
Yeah, I used to watch that a lot, and it was like it changed a lot, from the 80s and then into the 2000s. It's like people were really going nuts, and it's always been crazy right at ringside, but they really would go nuts. In the 80s, they weren't so much trying to grab on the wrestlers, and then in the 2000s, it was like even athletes, they're trying to walk down the tunnel. People are grabbing on them. They're like, get off of me. There's certain things going on too, and they interact with people and do stuff. But there was definitely a different level of familiarity, I guess you could say, from the fan thinking that the entertainment is more familiar than it is. It's like just because you see them all the time, they're not as familiar as you really think they are. You shouldn't be grabbing out at them and saying stuff to them, and we've all seen those wrestlers that, get offended, and then we've also seen those moments when the wrestler will console that little child because they kind of took it too serious. And, I love all that stuff. That's just great. That's what makes it entertainment, and that's what makes it real at the same time.
Yeah, Triple H had to do that with one kid who was crying at his show. He thought, "It's okay. I'm okay. He's okay. Everything's gonna be fine."
That's one of the best moments that there is because he recognized it, and a lot of people would recognize it and not do anything. And one of the biggest, gruffest dudes, can do that. And it's like, I watched wrestling at that time. Triple H was the height of the bad guys, and for him to do that. And it as an outside viewer watching those guys too and knowing them as bad guys, good guys, and then seeing Big Show, Triple H, Vince McMahon all go on the show when Rock was hosting Saturday Night Live, and to see them treated as a group kind of experiment was great. It just showed me how much what you see on TV is their TV persona. It's like these guys here, not everybody was like that, but these guys here, they are not who they are on wrestling. They're sweethearts, and anybody that's ever watched an Undertaker interview of him as himself and not just being the Undertaker, it's like, he's one of the sweetest men you could see do an interview, and he loved his job, and he has nothing but love for everybody. And it's like, but God, he just seems like one of the most hardcore, hard-assed guys.
I'm gonna bring up an image real quick. Just let me try to find a good image of this particular wrestler. But he used to come into the store that I worked at, and he would sit there for a while and sign autographs. And he was one of the nicest guys you could talk to. You could ask him all about his career, whether it was WWF or AWA, any of the wrestling promotions. So let me bring up an image here, and you will all know who I'm talking about here in just a moment. All right. 1 second.
This is where we need the Cat Shack clip. Well, we're waiting.
We're waiting. I know.
4 hours later.
3 days later. Summer's here. Just hold on for a moment. From here.
All right.
See if I ever get invited back.
Here we go. The Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. He used to come to the store I worked at here in this area because he had a house in this area that he lived in during the off season. So he would come into the store and he would have a table set up for him and he would sign autographs. He was one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. One of the nicest guys that you could ever talk to and ask him anything about his career. I wish Quidman and Pheenix were still here because they actually were able to get their pictures taken with him. So he was one of the nicer guys you could ever meet. And, yeah.
He looks like it. No.
You think these guys, when you approach them, are going to be just like their persona that you see on TV. No, a lot of them are not. And he was one of them who you just look at him and he was the sweetest guy you could ever meet.
Oh, especially when they're bad guys. A lot of the bad guys are, they love playing the bad guy. People always love playing the bad guy. They always seem to have the juicier, meatier roles, but they also end up being the nicest people you ever meet, with the big hearts, and that goes right into wrestling. I don't. My dad talked to you about that the other week, where I can't remember the name of the wrestler, but he was a bad guy, and then he got knifed when he was trying to protect a lady that was getting attacked. And it was while he was recovering in the hospital, they switched him over from being a bad guy to a good guy because there's no way we could keep this with this being the news because it was a big news story. There's no way we can keep him as a bad guy. Here you have a big guy who's going out of his way, risking his life for another human being. So nice. I mean, with some of the interaction with the ones that I ran into, there's some. I don't want to necessarily say the name, but he was a governor. He is a bit of an asshole, but a lot of these guys are so sweet and in many ways humble too. You wouldn't expect that these people would be so humble with what they're doing, the parts they're playing, and going out there and acting like they have this big ego trip. And many of them don't, and it's so nice.
Yeah, I've seen a couple documentaries where the people mention, they said, especially when you go to foreign countries, they said the people get so personal and emotional with their wrestlers. Like, so some of the heel characters are literally fighting their way out, or people are trying to stab them in the parking lots because they're just so enamored with the culture and wrestling. And we all know, like, Hispanic culture especially, it is more popular there than it is here. So, and we get that, and you see it in their other sports also. They are very emotional people. So, but it's like, that would be so weird to be like, this is just a guy I play for a couple hours. This isn't literally a day. Like, he probably tapes 12 hours a week. He's and the rest of the 100 and however many hours in the week, he's the sweetest individual ever. But yeah, and then you're like, oh, some guy was trying to stab me. Some guy was yelling profanities at me. He said he wanted me to go to hell and die. Yeah, that would be an interesting thing but it takes, I think that's why a lot of those wrestlers do have the personalities they do, because you would naturally have to let a lot of things not bother you and be able to let a lot of things go. And if somebody's yelling you piece of S, I hate you, blah, 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 blah. If you're hearing that every night from thousands of people, it takes a certain personality to be able to go, I'm completely in love with this. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and not be the typical, like now we be the typical troll and just bash back at the people. But they're having fun with it. They're working with the script and they're thinking, this is what these people want. As much as they want to hate me, wrestling is that. I don't like the feeling hate gives me. But when your hero beats that bad guy, that's the feeling they're going for. They're going for that emotional, just everything grab, that emotional twist of the nutsack, I guess. I mean, They
Oh,
just
yeah.
really want to get you. And that's so what wrestling is for so many people. It's more than sports and more than family. They just,
Mm-hmm.
it's like everything to so many. The people that really watch it and understand what it is. Like, I don't care. It's fake. That doesn't even matter. It's what everybody would hang the sport on the cross for. And it's like, nope, that's not even a thing. You're not, you don't get it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, as it goes for some of them, having the yelling at and all that, it gives them a sense that I'm doing my job right. I'm doing a good job of what I'm doing. If they're hollering and screaming at me from the audience, from the arena and all that, I'm doing this job good. And I just know that in the old days, what you say about the doing the trash talking of the audience that are watching. In the old days, they didn't necessarily do that. All they did was do like a look to the crowd. It's like, what, me? And then
Mm-hmm.
go back to what they're doing. It was, in some ways, it was a way of them reacting back to the audience, but being classy about it, but still being in character.
It's the professionalism. And it just, over the years, crowd touching has just become more acceptable, because we've seen people in the crowd rush stages and, run onto fields and everything. So, I mean, they do what they can. I've never seen really anybody in wrestling. I've seen a couple times when there's been an out of hand crown member, but I've never seen the wrestler get irate. Like, they kind of deal with it and they kind of put them down. It's like, nope, dude, we're not doing this. Sleeper hold, kind of. They don't really do that, but it's like, we're not doing this. We're not really getting in a fight. Just calm down. I've never seen the wrestlers really have that macho attitude that they portray when they recognize when things get serious, and wrestlers to me would be able to do that because they can kind of think, oh, I really did push that guy's button right there. Maybe I should pull back a little, because I could only imagine with this, what we saw at the Oscars, I could only imagine how emotional wrestlers could be with the things they have, the ups and downs, no family, seeing some family, traveling all the time, painkillers, drugs. Just, I can't imagine life that they have to deal with, even at its absolute best, would still be more stressful than anything I can imagine. So, I mean, it just gives me such happiness and faith in us as a people to see these guys be so nice, like we were all saying, even though they're the biggest jerks on camera, because these guys aren't like actors. We see actors that do really good and we're like, I don't even want to talk to that guy. He seems so arrogant, and I see way more actors and stuff. It's just like wrestlers seem more personable. They seem like the everyday people that just got lucky.
Well, some of them are everyday people because they realize that, yes, I'm with WWE right now, but doesn't mean that I'm going to be with them tomorrow.
Well, I mean, that's just it. When you do get some of those wrestlers out there that do get carried away with what they are, it comes to one thing: either they're asked to go, or they're told to go, or they start realizing, oh no, they come to the realization this is what I have to be here, and separate. Yeah, they're screaming at my character, not me, or but I think everybody gets either a little bit of ego at some point, and it comes to that road. Am I going to let this ego go, or am I going to let it consume me and have it eventually destroy my career?
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question here, and that's favorite wrestling promotion.
Well, I'd go with WWE. They have the history. I can watch some of the other stuff like Impact, And I really was into Lucha Underground when they existed, but WWE has been the constant.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with liking WWE based on that history that they have.
I'd have to say the thing that jumped out for me, as big as everybody was, and how they needed to be, and we all know Vince wants to be the leader. He wants to be the self-proclaimed, self-appointed leader of his organization. He always did, but I always thought Heyman was a jerk, how he came off across media. But that guy's drive, to me, I noticed him. This guy is hustling. He's working hard. He's promoting. He's managing. He's doing everything he can in his company. He wears all these hats, and and maybe it was because I saw WWF grow my whole life. And for me, I remember Vince McMahon being an announcer back in the very beginning. And when the other guy came up, the Ready to Rumble guy, I was like, isn't that the guy from wrestling? Because to me, he sounded so much like him, and he had that really professional voice. And it wasn't until I got older that I even knew that it wasn't him. And then, oh no, he didn't keep announcing. He just started out that way. Now he's like the president of the company, and it just went insane. But Paul Heyman, I remember not knowing anything about him and then seeing him and going, God, this guy is a force. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but he's going to make somebody notice what he's trying to push.
Not knowing about Paul Heyman in the 90s was probably for the best.
Yeah, I can fully admit that, but it was just like, wow, this guy is a whirlwind. He wants his company to succeed. And I can't say I agree with everything he was doing, but he sure as hell got his company noticed. And it could be a lot of things that helped him out at the time. Timing, just the fact that WWF was kind of going down a little bit and just having that opportunity. But that was something that was just a memorable moment, and it wasn't just WCW and ECW. It was several different companies kind of merging together at once. But I just remember him, and maybe it was because he was such a big mouth, but he was noticeable. It was like, God dang, man, I can't not notice this guy.
Well, even when he was in WCW as Paulie Dangerously, he knew his craft because he learned it well by working wrestling promotions in New Jersey and other places.
I mean,
he was a student.
He didn't know his craft. He just didn't know where to draw the line sometimes, and that's where people wanted to shoot him or have him prosecuted.
Yeah. And I'd say on a little lesser note, like wrestling promotion, like pushing your team and all that, I'd say I probably liked, God, I'm not going to remember his name, but who was the guy with the megaphone? Was he the
Jimmy Hart
manager?
Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart, yeah, that guy. I loved that guy and what he did, like as the manager for his team and stuff. I just really enjoyed what he brought to, and he was kind of the wild and crazy Saturday car salesman guy. But just what he did compared to some of the other guys, I enjoyed his shtick, and he wasn't really a wrestling promotion. But man, he pushed his guys. He pushed his guys more than it. They were the next big thing. They were always the up and comers. They were the best thing since sliced bread and the next people to win the championship belt. So it was just, I enjoyed him a lot.
And as far as my favorite wrestling promotion, it's shifted over the years. At some points it was WWF /
WWE. Other points, it's been ECW, WCW. So I can't really say I have one particular favorite wrestling promotion right now because it's shifted over time. And it all depends on the product that they're giving us, the wrestling that they're giving us.
You
You
know,
know,
for me, oh sorry.
No, go ahead, Baron.
Oh no, no, I didn't mean to interrupt. I mean, for me, like obviously, I've said it many times. AWA, for me, how many people came out of that organization? It was started by Vern Gagne and Wally. What's his name? Wally Carbo was the other guy's name, and taking the break off the NWA wrestling. But I think there's a lot of stuff that you have with WWF/E and the new stuff that you wouldn't have had if they didn't have the AWA out there. And the Natural Evolution, of course, obviously got absorbed in with Vince McMahon, and now doesn't exist. But those are where I have the fondest memories because, again, it was just all around us. It was that big kid that we had here, and we all wanted to succeed and give it to our sport.
Mm-hmm. All right. So moving on to the next question is if you had a wrestling promo or persona, would you be a face or a heel? Good guy or a bad guy? Baron?
Well, with this, I have to be a heel. And there's no way I could be a face. Again, because the bad guys are always fun to play.
Yeah.
You seem to have much more opportunities to chew the scenery, as you might say. And yeah, it would just be fun just to have the people, booing at you and being the bad guy and, getting your just desserts and occasionally being victor so you can get your just desserts later on.
How about you, Resolute Germ?
Yeah, heel would definitely be the way to go. You get more longevity out of that. People get tired of the whole Cena or Hogan type thing.
That's very true, especially, with fans wanting Cena to turn heel and it never happened.
That's probably for the best. He couldn't have pulled it off.
And how about you, Padawannabe? Would you be a
I
good guy
think I'd
or a
have
bad
to
guy?
go for the baby face protector role. Like the good guy, but when the bad guys start getting in your face, it's like, okay, dude, we need to stop this right now. Are we really going to go here? Because if we're going to go here, it's going to end with me. I love the take charge attitude, but I don't like the beat you down attitude. It's like I'm all about being a tough guy, but I will show you how tough I'm going to be. It's like, yeah, you can talk all the smack you want to do, but let's take it in the ring right now. It's like I'm the guy that's going to say, hey, why don't you pick on somebody your own size? And when they go, oh, you mean like you? I'll be like, yeah, I mean like me. And I just like that. I like that. I'm not trying to be the guardian or the protector, but it's like, hey, man, these are my people you're talking about now. And we need to shut this stuff down. I'm sorry I'm going to embarrass you in front of all your peeps, but this is what's going to happen. And it's going to happen as soon as you start moving. I love that kind of the confidence, even if you don't necessarily know you're going to win, you're like, oh, it's going to happen. And we're taking it to 11. I really like that. I fight for the good guys. I fight for the underdogs. I don't like the people that hold down and oppress and push around people because I push back, and and I'm not trying to make my name known, but if you didn't know me, you're gonna know me now.
And I liked how you cut a promo there too. Well, I gotta admit, I liked the good guys as a kid, but there's something about being bad.
The lady's like a bad boy.
Being the heel that gets away with everything, cheats to win, to retain his championship, and doesn't care as long as he's holding the gold. That's all he cares about.
I can't accept going under the ring for the chair. Oh, yeah, I totally feel you. That's what drives the story, but I just personally, that's what I'd go for. But man, yeah, I bet those guys get a super high of just making the fans get so emotional, just like that's a rush, getting an emotional response out of somebody when you really know that you don't have any malice in your heart. That would mean something else, when you know it's an act and you're like, damn, I nailed that character. And even that 8-year-old kid got mad at me, I mean, it's got to make them feel good, and I mean, even because they really are, they're all performers. They really are.
And I do want to say hello and thank you to Christian Fandom Geek for stopping by. Really appreciate it.
Wow, 4 a.m.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
How's tomorrow?
Good morning.
What do I need to invest in?
I don't know. What do you want to invest in?
I don't know. What makes me money in 24 hours?
Always go with the safe bet: canned foods and shotguns.
There we go. There we go.
But yeah, if I had to cut a promo, I might as well do it on camera.
Oh, here we go.
And yes, I am going to carry one of the belts. Let me just get it just right here. And here we go. I am PACIFIC414, the greatest little YouTube channel there is. I'm better than anyone in the big time, and they all know it, and that's why they shake in their boots. They shake in their boots because every time they see me, they go, there's PACIFIC414. There's the man that's going to take me out. There's the man that's going to come to my channel, and he's going to take it over. This little something.
Mic drop.
Bravo.
You just shove the belt right on the mic or right on the camera.
Oh, there he is. Thought we lost him.
He really dropped the mic.
Yes.
You're not going to lose me, and there's no way you're going to get your hands on this shiny belt here. Nuh-uh. It's staying around my waist. It's staying on my shoulders, and none of you can take it. I know that was a piss poor promo, but
hey man, I don't write real material until I get paid the big bucks.
But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank you guys for coming on and talking pro wrestling, and I want to thank you, Baron, for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm the most boring one you had on here.
Oh no. It was all entertaining. Resolute Germ, thank you for coming on, and
If wisdom means boring, yeah, you're the most boring guy on here.
Well, thank you. Very kind of you. I just want to say, I'm the Baron. I'm nobility. You are all peasants beneath me. I don't know why I even waste my time with you. But I want to say this. I don't care how good you think you are, Pacific. You might think you are the Queen's bee. You're still a commoner. You're not nobility like me. And that belt will be mine eventually. Because when it comes to the end, the nobles will win over you peasants. And don't you ever forget that.
You know, look at you, Baron. Look at you. You're sitting there all prim and proper and pretty in your manor, in your high tower, yet you're afraid to face me. You're afraid to face me because I hold more than one championship. As a matter of fact, if you want to get down to business, let's get down to business and do it hardcore. Tables, ladders, chairs, toolboxes full of tools.
And Sacco.
Yes, and let's not forget Sacco.
I'll accept that challenge, and I'm going to even add one more. A 1987 Yugo.
Oh my god.
I
know.
break up though.
I know, like I said in the beginning, Pop Talk, I try to keep it loose, fancy free. So yeah, we do get silly here on Pop Talk. And that's what some people like about it, some people don't. They want to see more structure. And trust me, there is structure when I do the regular Pop Talk, where I'm going through, news articles, because I do have the tabs open in the order I want to do the stories. But for something like this, I want to have fun. I want everybody who's here to have fun.
There's plenty of programming for the normies.
I never said I was normal.
We never accused you of it.
I got a little bit of madness in me. Ooh, yeah.
I wouldn't even suggest otherwise. All my money on that bet.
So, Baron, I know tomorrow you will be on 24/7's channel for the Primetime Kings with yourself.
5:15. 5:15 Sunday, Central Standard Time. Be there or be square. Be, of course, 24/7 Fusion Media, the mysterious Vigilante Williamson, the fantastic Fat Steven Seagal, and, of course, myself. And did I say that wrong? Did I say 24/7? I know he's put 24 in there. But yeah, I will. I'm with them every Sunday, and we try to have a structured show, but we kind of end up going like this. We have all our tabs open up, and we might get one in. But please join us as well. You never know what will happen on that show. Wednesdays, of course, I have my Baron After Dark. I'm going to actually have Fat Steven Seagal. I'm going to do a little nepotism there. He's going to be on my show that week. And then whoever wants me for whatever. I usually end up on Gary's Pulp Culture Minefield Saturday morning show, too. So catch that noon on Pulp Culture Minefield at Central Standard Time.
Well,
nice.
Keeping that show with Fat Steven Seagal on the rails. That guy tends to have fun. No, I love Fat Steven. He's great. He likes to have fun, and he likes to talk, and he's a great guy. I was just joking.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. I love him a lot, and we usually banter back and forth with the shots and all that. Which
yeah,
is fun.
To me, he's a next level guy. Like I'll even I'll watch his streams and I'm making jokes and nobody like says anything, and he's like, "Yeah, I get it. These guys they don't get it." It's great. Yeah, I get it. You know, like me, I kind of a lot of those jokes is like I know him too much. I know I talk a lot, and it's like, oh, he's right there with me. It's like, oh, I'm taking over the broadcast. I know what's happening. It's cool, y'all. And everybody's like, huh? What? Yeah, whatever.
My favorite moment with Fat Steven though is I made fun of him because he was laying in front of the computer with a pillow because he was so tired. He was doing so much streaming. So at the end of the show, I pulled up my pillow and was holding on to it at the end. The show comes to an end. He goes, "Are we? Is the broadcast ended?" Yeah. F you, Baron.
Yeah, he talks so much good smack on normal streams. I can only imagine what he's like with his buddies off stream. It would just be nonstop hilarity.
I was so sad that wasn't on the air.
You're like, oh, we missed it.
Well, you guys all seem to have a very good chemistry together, and you enjoy doing the show together each and every week.
Mm-hmm. We do. I mean, as I tell almost all the time when I go on there, I say, you guys are my therapy. I always look forward to Sunday and getting on that show. I mean, I hate being by myself. I love being with other people. Those guys are just wonderful to play off of, and we enjoy what we're doing. And I think that's the important thing. I'm, of course, the newest member, but I feel like I've been with them for a million years since the beginning.
Yeah, that's not something you can get all the time when you go into a stream. You can go into a stream and sometimes you just don't feel any chemistry with anybody on there, and it doesn't matter if you know them or not.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not feeling the vibe of the panel and the stream, you feel lost.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a few times where I've been on the stream when I'm back going, why the hell am I here? Really, it's like I'm not. Don't feel like I'm part of what's going on. But but most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, it's been meeting the people and being on there. It's been a positive. Like even this one, I felt like more being a fish out of water with this because mine goes back and mine are more fuzzy memories of the wrestling and all that. But listening to you guys is just a joy, and that chemistry right there, and just playing off with doing our little rants and such. It's just great.
It is. I mean, you're currently on Pop Culture Minefield with Gary and Keith and Brandon and Stephen Ottman.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, to be honest, if any topic, you walk into a bar and you hear a dozen people just casually conversing about a higher intelligence of what you're interested in, you'd be so happy just to listen. You're like, oh my God, yes, I know that. Yes, I know. If you can be part of the conversation, it's so much greater. But just to have, I thought it was so great because we had so many people talking tonight. And I was like, oh, just the age range alone will give us so much to talk about. And people, everybody's going to remember something. Many people are going to remember everything somebody says, and I just instantly, I thought this is just going to be fantastic. We all, at the very least, we all know The Rock and Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Certain people, no matter how long you've been watching wrestling, we can all relate on some level. And if you could literally walk into a bar and before you even order your first drink or order your dinner and you pass by a huge table and you hear Star Wars or Star Trek or Randy Macho Man Savage or whatever, and it's not just politics or social media junk, it's an actual interest, a hobby that, like I said, you're like, oh, what are they talking about? Let me bend my ear and at least listen to the wall. If I can get in this room, this is where I want to be. And it's just nice. I think it'd be cool for anybody that likes wrestling to all of a sudden see a panel and have 9 people on the panel and go, oh my God, let me see what these people got to say. That nine different people can't have the same opinion. Not about something that's been around for so long. You know, this was such a good topic.
And so many incarnations too. I mean, you know, all the different wrestling groups there is. I know. I think the Coof kind of stopped it, but it was always meaning to go to the local one we have that Chan has at the VFW or American Legion. I should say. Always seem to have on a Saturday night one of the amateurs, and my work wife and I were going to go there, but something always kept us from going to see that. But I'm hoping to bring it back so I can go there and experience it. It's, you know, it might be small, but it still has that same feel. It's still people going out there and performing that sports show and having fun.
Yeah, because even in my area, we used to have the local independents who would come through town and put on a show on a Saturday night, and people would go and they would have a good time. And you know, some people will say, "But it's not WWE, it's not WCW." It doesn't matter. It's still wrestling. Doesn't matter what the name of the promotion is. It could be Pacific Baron Wrestling, and you know, you have a group of wrestlers, male, female, get in there in the ring and they show off their craft. That's what people are there to see.
Yeah. And where do these people think that all the guys in AEW and WWE came from? They're in these local promotions 10 years ago.
Right. It's like the minor leagues.
You know, watching wrestling all these years has always wanted me, you know, and as cliche as it is, I've always wanted to go and see a women's roller derby match, like a real one. Like, I want to see this stuff, and wrestling got me introduced to that, you know, and I found out over the years that roller derby is not just a sexist man sport. You know, it's like a legitimate competition, and that's kind of a wrestling mentality, wrestling atmosphere. And it's like wrestling has introduced me to many other things. I wouldn't have been interested in boxing. I'm not a boxing connoisseur, but I've watched boxing for many years because of wrestling, you know. So there's lots of stuff, and even that recognizing a good actor, you know. Not hardly anybody in wrestling is a good actor, but if an actor can make me believe it more than The Rock, then I know I'm looking at something special.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. When they're cutting promos, they're acting. When they're looking at one another and acting like a face or a heel, that's still acting because they have to remember what they're supposed to say. Even though back in the day, they pretty much said it off the top of their heads. Nowadays, it's so heavily scripted that they have to memorize their lines. And you can tell when a wrestler doesn't like what they're having to say.
And then they still got to have their gimmick or their hook. Those lines don't sound as good when you don't say, "Oh, yeah." Oh, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Doesn't sound as good.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think they should go a little bit back to being more freeform in that. You know, here's the outline. Do your best. And it gives
that. Not a lot, but
no.
To me, that is a tool where a lot of people would go, well, no, I need to know what character you expect me to be. And it's like, to me, I look at that almost like an old school teaching tool. It's like, do you have the talent to be in our industry? We're not going to help you at all. Here's the tools. Show us what you got. You got 2 chances. You know, I mean, that's kind of make or break, fight or flight, do or do not. But that's how you figure out if you can hang in that industry. You have to be physically talented and verbally talented. Undertaker didn't speak for years, and he was still able to make his character better. And Kane, they did not speak at all. and they've had some of the longest careers, you know. And we all saw Undertaker. He was still that beat you up hardcore guy, but his persona changed about as much as it can. Other than him going from, oh, he's a technical wrestler, now he's a high flying wrestler. You know, he went from that I don't say a word to anybody to that fully interacting, I'm going to drive a motorcycle out to the stage. You know, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't look at that as much of a change, but it was like, he went from don't talk to me to I'm talking to everybody with my fists kind of guy.
Yeah, it certainly makes up for people who can't really do the talking. The Undertaker wasn't strong on the mic, so they gave him Paul Bear, and then like guys, modern guys like Ricochet, who have virtually zero mic skills, you hardly ever notice that because he's doing these insane flips and whatnot. So you don't expect him to get on the mic too often, and he just did like a triple backflip or some crazy shit. You don't really remember that he didn't touch a microphone.
Yeah, I remember that a lot because I liked RVD a lot because of his very athletic skill. And he wasn't horrible on the microphone, but he wasn't great. You know, he was better than a few, but you know, you take and leave what you can. But exactly like you're saying, you know, some people show their skills in other places. I mean, flat out, Jeff Hardy was in wrestling because that dude would jump off anything. It wasn't because of his mic skills. You know, I mean, some of those guys just, you know, Hulk Hogan obviously was there because of the way he looked and what he could deliver verbally. Because the guy had like 4 moves and none of them were very impressive. You know, I mean, he never got on the ropes. He never did a drop kick. He never jumped, you know. So it was like those wrestlers, to me, it really did surprise me how long Hulk Hogan was able to not even hold on, but he literally recreated a character. He didn't even add any more moves to his repertoire, but his career elongated because he grabbed that audience again. I mean, how electrifying is a leg drop and an arm bar and a headbutt? I mean, Hulk Hogan just did not have a whole lot in his arsenal. And I was really surprised. And a lot of bigger guys do. But then you look at a guy like Hulk Hogan to Triple H, and it's like, well, Triple H had twice as many moves. And he wasn't an incredibly athlete. You know, again, he wasn't doing the drop kicks and all that kind of stuff. But he had, at least his finishing move wasn't a leg drop, you know. And I mean, I can't say the people's elbow was all that impressive either, but it was that showmanship, you know, and Hulk Hogan had that. He had something that people wanted to see, even though he was definitely not an entire package. And a lot of those early wrestlers weren't, you know. I mean, Iron Sheik.
You don't really get an entire package even today.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But there are a lot more athletic and mic able people than there was. You know, I mean, even if you take some of the best mic guys back in the day, Randy Savage and Jake the Snake Roberts and Hulk Hogan and all these guys, their wrestling skills were very limited. They had, a dozen moves at the very most. And what Randy Macho Man Savage was doing jumping off the rope, I can't even compare anything to what I've seen in the last 20 years with the shooting star and the flips and the Hurricane Rana and all this stuff. And it's like all he was doing was just jumping a distance. He wasn't, and that it still takes talent. I'm not saying that, but it's just like, God, the athleticism of wrestling has gone insane. Like, Do you realize how high you can jump off a turnbuckle? And then I'm going to jump onto something on the ground, not on the mat. And then somebody goes, oh, I'm going to put a 20-foot ladder on the stage and jump off that. I mean, these are nutty stuff. And the Hell in the Cell, what is that? 25 feet high. So they're literally 35 feet from the ground. And then we see Mick Foley landing on nothing but tacks and metal chairs. I mean, these guys, they're in the sport because they love it. They want to show us something that entertains us, and we suck it up. And I can't say I'm a more good or bad person for it, but I respect what all these individuals are doing.
And on that note, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream. I want to thank you all for coming. Resolute Germ, do you have anything you'd like to promote before we leave?
Yeah. Saturday morning cartoons every Saturday at 8 Pacific, and Tuesday's sci-fi watch parties at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, nice.
And I'll be on Prey 5's Twilight Zone tomorrow. I believe that's 11:30.
Very nice. And again, I know we already talked about it, but I'm going to talk about it again. Baron, you have the Primetime Keens tomorrow, and you also have Baron After Dark.
And then I've been appearing on the Pulp Culture Minefield Saturday morning show too. So I'm one of the sugary sweets.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
And Padawannabe, what do you have coming up?
Well, nothing's scheduled, but like I said, anybody who keeps up with me, or if you see me on the streams like this and stuff, I have stuff I'm working on. We have a life. We try to build things, and I'm trying to get my collection room going. So videos, I have my Twitch account, I have my YouTube account. Stuff will be coming. There's not a whole lot now, but same wannabe name, same wannabe channel. We'll just go there and look for stuff. Just subscribe, hit your notifications. It'll come up when it comes up. And if it's something you like, hey, watch it. I have a lot of interests and hobbies, and I've been a nerd for 40 years. So we'll see what ends up in the room.
Very nice. And for anyone who might be curious, I do have each and every one's links in the description down below.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. I wish all the other guys were here for the rest of what we got to talk about, but it was such a pleasure to talk to everybody, and I'm sure they'll watch the rest of it.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will. And I do want to say thank you to Paul from the Star Wars guys, Quidman, Jenkins, Brandon, the anime guy, Loki. Thank you very much, brother. It's great finally being able to stream with you, even though I've been on streams briefly with him, whether it be on Brandon's channel or even Captain Streck's channel. Been on there briefly with him, but to actually be able to talk with you, brother, it was great. And having you guys, all of you guys here, was absolutely fantastic. And I do want to say thank you to everybody who showed up in the chat. I want to thank Christian Phantom Geek. I also want to thank you, Baron. Nerf Royal Lifeform. It's great to see you. And then, of course, we had Dave G Sound. Thank you, Dave. And let's see who else. Let's see. And of course, we had Brandon here today. Thank you, Brandon. You can catch Brandon every Saturday afternoon at 12 o'clock Eastern for Anime 101. It's a great show, especially if you're just getting into anime.
Mhm.
Also, Padawannabe, thank you very much. Tim's Talk, thank you very much. I also see if there's anyone else. No, there is
Way back there,
nobody else.
you got Dave G Sound and
Yeah,
DJ
I already.
Ronnie G.
Yeah, I just saw DJ Ronnie G, so I'm gonna highlight him because I've already mentioned Dave G Sound. And thank you, DJ Ronnie G. Thank you very much. But this was a lot of fun, and I do want to extend the invite to you guys to join the May 14th stream where it's going to be the collector stream part 2.
More than happy to.
All right.
Yeah, I'll try and actually get something to maybe I can find something nice and fun.
I don't know what. Only thing I collect is cartoon DVDs.
And
that's fine. It's still a collection.
Anything you have a bunch of is a collection. If you like to read, if you like movies, if you like anything like that, it's a collection. If somebody, hey, I soup my car up. Well, you're collecting parts for your car.
Yes. So, once again, on behalf of Resolute Germ, the Padawannabe, Baron Orman Tagge, Brandon the Anime Guy, Paul from the Star Wars Guys, Quidman Jenkins, King Pheenix, and myself, and of course, to each and every one of you, thank you so very much for tuning in for this episode of Pacific 414 Pop Talk. There will not be the morning live Pop Talk in the morning at 11 because I wasn't sure how long the stream was going to go, but there will be a video going live tomorrow morning at 11 where I cover 2 stories, and those 2 stories are Fan Expo and Gina Carano being involved with an academy who tried to get Gina Carano banned from this expo in Denver, Colorado, and also Ezra Miller and his future with the WWB. So if you want to watch that video, go right ahead. You can leave your comments in the comment section below, but I will promise you that next Sunday there will be a live episode of Pacific Forum for Pop Talk, and tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, depending on when the game is over, I will be doing a live episode of the box score after the conclusion of Cubs and Brewers. And of course, the Wednesday edition of Pop Talk will be live. And as always with Pop Talk, I welcome anyone and everyone onto the panel to discuss the articles that I find interesting throughout the week. So until then, thank you all so very much. I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anyone else because I don't want to do that. I don't want anyone to feel left out. That's just how I am. So real quick, making one last round of checks. You know, checks and balances. All right, one quick second here. Second, just double checking to make sure.
It looks like you got everybody.
I think I've got everybody.
We got them all.
Yep.
Except the lurkers.
Yeah. Oh, that's all right. You know, they're still here. I know myself. There are a lot of times where I'm just a lurker, where I'm listening, but I'm not actually that active in the chat. I will admit that. So, thank you all. Have yourselves a great night. And until next time, take care.